All right, everybody. This is Philo. With me, as always, is Mahdin and Khayalie. Hello, both of you. How are you guys doing?
We're all good.
All
We're
good.
all good.
All good.
All right.
Hello.
So
Hi, everyone.
we are here back again with the Is Islam True debate between Matt Dillahunty and Daniel Haqiqatjou. And this is the part two. We're probably gonna move ahead with Daniel's opening statement and see if there's any more bit to be covered for us. And before we do that, I'm going to request anybody who's listening to this review, please subscribe, share as much as you can. Once the stream is over, just make sure that you comment whatever you liked. If you didn't like anything, make sure you comment there as well. And also, just press the notification bell so that whenever there's a live stream next time, you just get the notification. And apologies on our part. I think the stream was scheduled for 11:30 and we are running late by some time. So our apologies. So hello, Mahdin. Hello, Khayalie. Shall we start? Do you have anything to say before we start?
Yeah. No. Do we have any more of Daniel's speech? I think we covered the substantive gist of it, right? And I don't think he's going to say anything more, unless Kylie. I know you've got a head start. I'm seeing some of it. So unless there's anything more, should we just quickly cover Matt's very quickly, because I know Matt goes into it. He doesn't go into that much detail, but then move on to the second part of Haqiqatjou's statement.
So what I suggest is that we cover quickly the rest of the part of Daniel Haqiqatjou's statement. I think there is some thing that we can still respond to, and some interesting points that he made in his opening statement that are left. So let's go through that first, and then I think we can go back to Matt's statement.
All right. Before we do that, I think we have a few listeners right now. Right away, join. Welcome to all of you. If you want to, come onto the stream, probably we're going to open the stream later on at some point. Maybe, hopefully, as soon as possible. But at the same time, not shying away from reviewing this and then just giving it a due time to, cover whatever points we have in mind. So keep tight and drop in once we open the stream. So
if you think when you're watching, when we're reviewing something, that we'd said something wrong, or you want to talk to us about it, you can obviously come later, or you can just write a comment and we will discuss that comment. So throw the comments out. We want to hear your comment and we will interact with you. Okay. So if you've got issues with anything that the debaters say, anything that we say, then we'll make sure to print it on the screen.
All right. So where are we going? We are looking into Matt's statement.
No, Haqiqatjou's remaining part, apparently.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I just missed that part. Sorry. All right. Let's go through it, right?
Now, there's another mode of thinking which is called analytic thinking. Analytic thinking is different because it coexists after bodily death. We also intuitively believe that the past was real and our memories are based on that past reality. So aesthetic intuitions. Humans universally experience disgust at the thought of eating human flesh. There are also logical intuitions. We all intuitively accept the law of non-contradiction, that two contradictory statements cannot both be true at the same time. And we also have mathematical intuitions, like 5 objects is more than 1 object. There are also intuitions about the world and history. For example, we all intuitively believe that there's an external world that persists even if we're not in it. We also intuitively believe that the past was real and our memories are based on that past reality. We also have natural intuitions about God. Most people in the world and in history believe in spirit beings. According to cognitive science, this belief is biologically rooted. Research shows that children as young as 5 across diverse cultures all express similar beliefs that the universe was created by the supernatural. This is the case even for children in cultures that don't affirm a creator God, like Japanese children. This shows that the intuition to believe that the universe was created by supernatural beings is inbuilt. People also naturally believe that the mind persists after bodily death. Belief in the afterlife is a biologically rooted intuition. Psychologists call this natural theology. So to recap, humans have many natural intuitions about what is true. When we rely on those intuitions, that is called intuitive thinking. A good way to think about intuitive thinking is like a tendency to find something.
Right. Mahdin, did you say something?
No. We've kind of covered a lot of this in the first one.
Yes.
Right.
Just we can move through
plausible or true. Quickly. If I tell you.
Yeah, sure.
the world doesn't go away when you close your eyes, most people will tend to because of our human different, because it causes us to question our intuitions rather than just accept things because they feel compelling. We demand further evidence and justification. In other words, analytic thinking is about doubt. We doubt our intuitions and then we explore other possibilities. We gather evidence, we make inferences. We might intuitively feel that eating human flesh is disgusting, but is it actually wrong? Well, let's just gather data and evaluate. And analytic thinking are found in human beings, and analytic thinking is dominant in others. The other important thing is that when you engage in more analytic thinking, you start doubting more and more of your intuitions. This is studied in dual process theory. People who have maximized their analytic thinking will doubt their religious, moral, and aesthetic intuitions. Only their strongest intuitions remain. For example, their intuitions about logic or about the external world. But for everything else, they demand empirical evidence. But there is no empirical evidence for these things. So when you maximize analytic thinking, people become more and more inclined to a reductionist view of the world defined by scientific material.
So you'll notice that he mentioned that when a person who is strongly inclined towards analytical thinking, even for them, he categorized some intuitions as strongest intuitions, right? Which means that there is something about these intuitions that remain, which is different from the other intuitions that we usually might question later in life, or due to some analytical thinking we might consider them, or we are able to uh, analyze or see, or realize that these certain intuitions that we have, we are able to let's say uh, evaluate them, we can analyze them analytically. But certain and intuitions, even according to Daniel, there are certain intuitions which are the strongest one. So I would say that he's sort of this goes against his line of reasoning, because he's acknowledging the fact that there are certain intuitions which are stronger than others.
Yeah. The other thing that going from what you've said, like you're emphasizing certain intuitions, he's also emphasizing other intuitions, right? This is the issue with his argument. This is something that I wrote to one of the people who came on in the last stream, Sean. He recently responded under the comments, and the first thing that I said is, what justification do you have for the first principle in the beginning, which the principle that he's using is, and that Haqiqatjou is using, that a universal natural intuition that exists as a cognitive state throughout culture, throughout time, that is a absolutely certain way of getting to the truth. That's pretty much, he's what he's saying. That doesn't need any other further justification or evidence, right? Now that's Sean's version of what Haqiqatjou is saying, or something like that, and it is similar. And Sean is correct to characterize it like that. Okay, but this is the thing, that is simply declared by fiat. That's just an assertion. That's the first thing that I said. That is simply an assertion, right? The idea that a universal natural intuition that stays, he just picked something and just said, this is how it goes. Why? And just like Khayalie just said, what if I just chose a different principle, which is the strongest intuitions which survive after analytical thinking? Yeah, those are the ones that don't require any further justification or external evidence. We can just take them on quote unquote faith. That would be another principle. So now you have two principles and they're competing with each other. Which one is the right one? And both of us can just promulgate our intuitions and say it's just true by fiat. Yeah, what it shows is this is very arbitrary. Like, I'm arbitrarily declaring this, what Khayalie just said, and Haqiqatjou just arbitrarily declaring that. Yeah, this is why this is, I would argue, because it starts from a first principle which is arbitrary. It can't be one that is procured or orientated towards getting to the truth. And this is what I wrote to Sean, that first of all, if as soon as we start defining what we mean by truth, all of this falls apart. What do we mean by truth? According to Haqiqatjou and Sean, it's just a feeling. Like, if I have a very strong universal natural feeling, then that's the truth. That's his principle. But how is that? Is that the truth? what if you have a different understanding of truth? For example, truth is that which is true, irrespective of your beliefs, irrespective of your subjective states, irrespective of your biases, irrespective of your prejudices. The truth is something that is mind independently true. Now what? Which one is a better definition of truth? I think that one that I proposed is. As soon as you accept this one is the truth, then Haqiqatjou and Khayalie's counter argument, and obviously Khayalie's not subscribing to that. You're just giving an example that arbitrarily we can select that, but both of them fall apart at the same time, because the truth is not what Haqiqatjou is getting at when he says this is how we go about it. My principle that I've just described, that a true thing is something that is mind independently true, some sort of synthetic truth through an observation, or analytical truth. That seems to be a better definition of truth, because it actually is the goal of what we mean by truth. Truth is that. For example, if I think I'm 7 foot tall, is that true? What do we mean? We mean, is it mind independently true? Does it describe the world irrespective of my feelings? Well, my feelings are saying I'm 7 foot tall, but then somebody can measure me and go, look, independent to your feelings, mind independently, you're actually not 7 foot tall. You're only about 5'11" and a half or 3/4, which is actually my real height. Yeah. So there you go. That would be the truth, right? So that seems like a better definition of the truth, getting to the truth. And every other definition, like Haqiqatjou is presenting, has no connection to the truth.
Right. And I'll raise one other point as well. If you look at and if you notice what Daniel's approach is, he's not just proposing intuition, because intuition alone would mean that any intuition that we have, if we take Daniel's approach, any intuition that we have, we are supposed to not question it and just believe that is true. But what he actually is not, maybe he's not realizing that, but his approach is not just based on intuition. He is using empirical proofs to prove that his intuition is true. How? Because he's referring to studies. Those studies are empirical proofs. So so just to break down his argument, just to to the bare bones, I would ask him, Daniel, if you had no studies, would you just rely on your intuition to conclude that yes, my intuitions are true in
Yeah.
absence of any studies?
Yeah.
If you still say that yes, I would still believe it just because I have an intuition, then in that case you are not going to, then your approach is that you're not going to question any intuition at all. Then you are not going to use analytical approach at all. You're denying analytical approach entirely. However, if you say that my intuition is true because I have referred to these studies, then you're using empirical proof, not your intuition.
Yeah. I think that in respect to that, they may say something like, they're not saying entirely that the use of intuition is the only way of getting to true beliefs. Analytical thinking and scientific thinking have a place. By the way, they're using analytical thinking differently to how I use it in philosophy. But the analytic synthetic distinction is different to general usage of the term analytic thinking. But whatever the case, I think they would say something like, obviously for some things you need empiricism, some things you need you need analytical thoughts. My only issue is that first principle in the very beginning, that which is universal, that which is natural, that which is what we're born with, that which is innate, is true, true, and that's it. How did you justify that principle? And what Khayalie, what you've said, it would demonstrate that is natural. True. That then let's say you do a universal psychological, you look through anthropology, you look through psychology, you look through social sciences, and you find out that there is a innate internal belief, maybe for God, maybe for anything else. But then to assert that because it's universal, therefore this is like a reliable faculty to get to truth, that is just a plain assertion, right? That's principle. It's like the if he's making the argument that certain principles can't be justified, how could then that principle can't be justified either? And if he's making the argument that, well, sometimes we take certain principles on intuition, what is the justification for the principle that sometimes we can take certain principles on intuition? Well, he may say through intuition, but then it's circular, right? That begs the question: why should we take anything on intuition? Because we take things on intuition. But wait, that's begging the question. It's like trying to solve induction using induction. It's trying to solve the principle that we should be able to take things on intuition. His definition of intuition, which is a natural, universal, innate belief, we can take things on intuition, and he justifies that principle how? Using intuition. It's completely. It has nothing to. It's not standing on any ground. He just asserts it arbitrarily, and that is a fatal flaw. Now, unlike him, my principles, my first principles, are not just asserted into reality. Yeah, they're not just standing on sand, right? My principles of truth has an actual meaning. Why? Because by truth, if you mean by truth to learn about the world, that principle does have some grounding. It has some justification, right? If I want to learn about the actual world, if I want to be objective, if I want to know the truth, am I actually 7 foot tall? Yeah, then I can't rely on intuition. I have to rely on measurements. So my principle that in order to get to the truth, you need to actually have analytical thinking is a better principle. His principle isn't, and it's got no support. Can you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yes.
Can I?
I mean, but you did get my point, right? Because what
Yes.
in fact, he's going to expand on this further. What I'm trying to say is that his argument from intuition does not depend on intuition alone. It does not stand on intuition. It cannot stand on intuition alone because he himself is relying on scientific studies to arrive at the conclusion that his intuition has led him is let's say more natural, is more is more commonly found among humans. So then
Right.
he's relying on empirical data once again, which he might consider not that reliable or what, for whatever reason. So I mean, I'm saying that his approach is not purely based on intuition. It is taking into
Yes.
account
In
empirical
other
data.
words, Khayalie, in other words, if he didn't have the
It's
empirical data,
population.
if he
Right.
didn't have
Sorry.
the empirical data, then he won't be able. According to him, he won't be able to he won't be able to hold up the truth of his faculties, the faculty towards God. He
Exactly.
wouldn't hold that reliably.
Exactly.
So I know what you're saying. I'm just double barreling your argument
Yes,
with mine.
you're right.
So it's two arguments in one. Your argument and my argument. That even if we ignore what Khayalie has said, then you have the issue of why that's true anyway. He just asserts it.
Right.
He simply asserts that something that is universal and innate doesn't need justification. Who said? Haqiqatjou? Is that it? That's like me saying if I am born in Bangladesh, then I don't need to prove anything. What? If I was born in the North Pole, I don't need to prove anything. Why is that right? Why is that right in the first place? That's just a bold-faced assertion that has no justification, right? And that's what I'm saying. If something is universal, why do you not need to prove it? Isn't it like, in fact, you might say that's the ad populum fallacy or genealogical fallacy or something like that.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. But anyways, do you guys mind if I read a few comments, because we have a few guys commenting over here? I'll just read quickly. Okay.
Yeah.
There's I don't know what Sadhana Chaturta is the name, but the only truth is Sanatan. All right, that's what you think. Anyone who wants to join, this is from me. Anyone who wants to join the stream and correct us or corroborate our points is welcome after the stream is open. If there are enough people, wanting to come in, we might, open the stream early, if that's okay with Khayalie and Mahdin. All right. This debate is from Modern Day Debate, if I'm not wrong, and there was a fight also. I haven't looked into it. I was just sent a clip, so yes, I heard there was a fight, and I think Mahdin and Khayalie know it. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't an actual fight. I mean, it was just a face-off. Daniel sort of provoked Matt to say something on his face, and Matt said, "Okay, if you want that, I'm gonna say it to your face."
Right.
He just stood up and then
Okay, so
he did that.
he just wanted to just see how fearless this guy was, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
All right.
Daniel was just testing the waters. Actually,
Mm.
I think Daniel's approach was it was two pronged, right? Whether Matt reacted to that or not, he in a way he would have salvaged the situation by if he wouldn't have stood up or done anything, he would have said, he's a coward or something like that.
I think it was a
And
win-win.
if he did, yeah,
Yeah.
and since he did, he can just make fun of that. He got all emotional but but I think maybe Matt needed to do what he did,
Right, right.
maybe. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the thing is though, the thing is, what I noticed is when Matt did that, everybody, a lot of people on Daniel's side were saying, "Oh, the atheist got angry," or and
yeah,
so on.
I
What? But some of these people are also fans of Mohammed Hijab, who occasionally pumps his chest, engages in bravado, ego battles, threatens people with fights. He's a very he kind of portrays or conveys a very amateur wrestler type of vibe.
macho, yeah,
Yeah.
macho
Um,
and
he
yeah,
conflates
aggressive,
debates with
aggressive.
fights, and that's fine. So the people who, if you're against hijab, or for example, if you're a Muslim and despise Muhammad hijab's tactics, then you are consistent at least to some extent. If you don't like aggression in debates, on the other hand, if you are a fan, if you're watching this and you're a fan of Muhammad hijab's more offensive, aggressive forms of debauchery, almost, and you like it and you go, yes, go hijab, fight, but then just get angry at or have a double standards here when Matt Dillahunty gets angry. So what? Matt Dillahunty apparently used vitriolic language or profanities. So what?
then
Profanities
you
are
don't
just,
have any
yeah,
right
go
at
on.
that point. You don't have any right to say, "Oh, okay,
Yeah,
look at Matt. He's got angry. He's just because he
yeah,
can't win the debate. He's just showing his." So that's the kind of thing. Okay, let's.
yeah.
You want to
Yeah,
finish this thing?
some people are naturally a bit more aggressive, right? So when
Right.
I debate, I can be a little bit more aggressive. It's just natural, even when I'm not really angry. Even when I'm not angry, it just comes out like that. Some people are just like that in the way they are. I could feel complete zero anger, but just the way I talk can be like that. So you should not always think that. At least in this situation, I think Dillahunty was calmly just saying, "Look, I'm not scared of you. You requested something on live TV, which was silly, but look, I can come up here and say it to your face. Look, I'm saying it to your face, but I'm not violent because I saw the clip, and he
Yes,
didn't. He didn't
it's
angrily
very
go there and
clear.
go, "I'm going to beat you up."
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
So he
very
didn't.
if you
Yeah.
actually listen to him, it was very clear that he wasn't that emotional. He was just making his point that I'm not afraid of you, and what you just said, if you were trying to make any point, well, you know get if it's pointless, and you cannot if you want to show that I'm covered, well, I'm not. So,
Yeah.
and plus he has, I mean, just mentioning that, I think maybe he has some sort of aggression within him as well, but he was calm. But
Mm.
he is a former, probably he has a military background, so maybe
Mm.
some sort of, he would have some sort of ego as well. So it's not like he's a very,
Yeah. Yeah.
he would be a naturally very calm person.
Mm.
Right, right. I think that showed, and but there maybe it was a fun moment for somebody enjoying the debate. Okay,
Yeah,
let's we got to see something else as well apart from just
yeah, I
breaking
guess
out
so.
with
I think
words. Okay,
I want to
we
see
would
that
have
part
it.
in the debate. I want to see that part of the debate because I want to know what made Haqiqatjou say that. Why? Like, Why would he say, "Come and say it to my face"? What was going on? Why do you need to say anything to your face? You know, I would want to know that.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think
have
we'll
no idea to
probably,
be honest.
yeah,
Yeah.
at the end of, once we're done with the review, I think we can probably check that particular video.
Right, right. All right. All right.
So I think, yeah, let's continue.
Let's read
Yeah, you
Major
want to read?
Reynolds. Major Reynolds, there was no fight. Haqiqatjou tried to provoke Matt. Matt called his bluff. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Calling his bluff. He called his bluff, basically. When he went over there, he called his bluff.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So good. Thanks, Major Reynolds, for reminding us that thing. No physical incident occurred, thankfully. Yes. Just two more comments, guys, and then we'll carry on with our review. Okay, I heard in some video. The meaning of my name is Seeker of Truth. Okay. Seeker of Truth. Good. And I hope if you are saying that you're a seeker of truth, then you're going to question your Sanatan as well. Yeah? That'll be the true seeker of truth, by the way. God Bhai, hello. Good to see you here again. All right, let's move on, guys.
materialism, and anything beyond that is doubted. Now let's bring it all back. When we have a debate about good evidence for God, what are our standards? Are we trying to meet the standards of a maximally analytic mode of thinking, the type of extreme analytic thinking of atheists? Why should we? Why should we just accept that standard of evidence as opposed to a more balanced type of cognition that doesn't nuke all our natural human intuitions? What atheists will want to claim here is that we should obviously prefer the maximally analytic mode of thinking. Why? Because that's the mode of thinking that's most likely to give us the truth. But is this true? Does maximizing doubt bring us closer to the truth? Why should we believe that? I would challenge atheists to justify this. Why should we adopt such extreme epistemic standards? In reality, a psychology that balances intuitive and analytic thinking is more suitable for recognizing truth. And this is actually an insight that we find within the history of philosophy and the work of Western philosophers like Ludwig Wittgenstein. Not all of reality can be reduced to empirical data points to be scrutinized through systematic analysis. The reality is the reality we all experience is far richer than that. And insisting on maximum analytic thinking actually takes us further from fully seeing reality, like covering up one half of our binoculars. Furthermore, the insistence on maximal analytic thinking is nothing more than a recent product of cultural evolution. For most of history, human cognition was more balanced. So what changed? Analytic thinking became dominant, not because it's more attuned to the truth or because it's more beneficial for humanity. Analytic extremism became dominant because of what we can call cognitive colonialism. To understand how this happened,
Philo,
consider society
can
A,
you
that is
speak?
analytic dominant, versus society B, that is intuitive dominant.
I mean, I just wanted to point out that he is continuously categorizing his own position as balanced, for which he has no proof, or he has no reason, for which we have no reason to accept it as balanced. What you consider as balanced isn't necessarily balanced, because you wouldn't
Right.
say,
Yeah.
you wouldn't say that a person who believes in 1,000 gods is extreme, and a person who believes in one god, one could say that, a person who believes in one god and a person who believes in 1,000 gods is both are extreme. So let's take a balanced approach, and let's believe in a few hundred gods, or let's say a few tens of gods, right? So it's just an arbitrary categorization that you think that, and particularly you just want to consider this belief in God, and only you just want to add among the other necessary intuitions that we rely upon, to that in a way are quite necessary. You want to add this particular intuition only just to because it aligns with your worldview, because you were born in this, it aligns with your worldview, aligns with your religion. You want to consider that as balanced, but you don't want to consider anything else, or you don't want to you want to categorize the others approach as not balanced or extreme. It's arbitrary.
Well,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
One
So let
thing.
me just. Sorry,
Yes.
Philo, you go.
Matt.
I'll go last. I'll go
Right.
last.
No, I just have a small point to make.
Yeah.
So, with these intuitions, I just wanted to make a point. Since we have a Sanatani commenter over here, why would the intuitions of Hindus, millions and millions of, or probably billions of Hindus, is not right in that sense, pretty much, because their intuition is there are multiple gods. There's plethora of gods, maybe what 30 crore gods or something like that, whatever that may mean, right? Now, if you are going into the basic intuitions, maybe you have to consider those as well, pretty much, right? And then you have to you have kind of an inconsistency between yours, a single mind versus many minds, pretty much, right? So that's what I'm saying. Basically, it's not very consistent in that sense. Basically, when he's saying our intuitions are very basic, and we should move away from. We should not only take analytical, but we should, in fact, stress on intuitions more. Basically, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can play this game with intuitions and go ask which intuition is actually natural and which isn't. Why is monotheism more natural than polytheism? And is that just a cultural byproduct of our time? Because monotheism is a little bit more dominant amongst the rest of the world than polytheism, which is centralized and concentrated in some regions of the planet geographically. Whatever the case,
For the rest of the history of humankind, polytheism has always been. If you cumulatively take the whole data,
right? So you take exactly,
polytheism went hands down, pretty much, right?
Yeah. He might want to say that it's not natural though. Like it's polytheism is more natural. Like if you take a child and not give them any external stimulus, programming, socialization, or learning, he will that dictates to him a particular god or a multiplicity of God, he would naturally be orientated towards believing that there's a deity or a single creator. There is absolutely to this date no consensus on this. We care about
exactly.
and that's what we talked about last time. All of the studies,
Yeah.
they don't discuss any of that, and there's no consensus. And this is what Sean had said as well. He wrote on a comment that tried to defend one particular study. He missed the point. He missed the horizon for the spot on the sky or something. He missed everything. Like missed the sky, missed the forest for the trees or whatever the expression is. The whole point is there's no peer. This is an empirical claim of anthropology and psychology that there is a natural, innate, universal, monotheistic God belief, and nope, there isn't. Anthropologists don't think this, and psychologists don't think this. Is there a field of study that purports it? Yeah, most of those psychologists tend to have a Catholic funding backing as well. They tend to be Catholic scientists looking for it. And they may or may not be right. Just because they're from a Christian or religious background doesn't necessarily bias them. But to this day, there is no consensus, and that's what we care about. I don't care about the fringe scientists who believe vaccinations don't work or something like that, or fringe scientists who are against climate change. We care about, or the fringe hadiths within hadith science. We do care about the consensus, the scholarly consensus. There is no scholarly consensus supporting the idea that there's a uniform, universal, innate, inborn tendency towards monotheism. Nothing. And yeah, Daniel's argument hinges upon at least that. The other thing that I wanted to say is Daniel made a challenge to say that why is maximally analytical thinking the means to get to the truth? Apparently this is just without foundation or merit, and we should have a balanced view. And some philosophers in the history of even Western philosophy, apparently, people like Wittgenstein, they thought you have to have a more balanced view or something like that. Well, Daniel does not go into any deeper details about that. Which page, where, when, what was he talking about? Where's the context? Which book that Wittgenstein wrote? I've not heard anything specifically like that. He may have been talking about it in a different context. Wittgenstein may have meant that there are certain things that you can't know through empiricism or something.
Right,
That's
Mattl.
true. Analytical thinking is not restricted to empirical thinking, right? So if that's what Wittgenstein was saying, then that is we agree with that. You can have logical thinking, and logical thinking may not refer to anything observational. May or may not refer to anything observational. For example, Khayalie is an alligator. If Khayalie is an alligator and all alligators are green, then Khayalie is green. Now, this is not making any reference to the world, but it's true within the definition, within the definitions, true within the sentences. It has a logic as a system, and it's true in that sense. That's analytical thinking, and Wittgenstein Wittgenstein was a forerunner to logical positivism, and then eventually David Hume and so on, and the logical positivists like Bertrand Russell, A.J. Ayer, who came out with the verificationist principle, which was all about that all meaningful knowledge can be reduced to either analytical knowledge or synthetic knowledge, right? That's what it was about. So, and they built on top of Wittgenstein's work. So, what is he talking about? That there's other things. I mean, what he may mean, what Wittgenstein may mean, and some philosophers meant, is that there might be some truths about yourself that is not accessible publicly to everybody else, which is fine. But that's truths about yourself. For example, aesthetic truths, right? You might say something is aesthetically true in the sense that it is true for me. But many of the philosophers, many of the logical positivists thought an aesthetic truth is a subjective truth. And they were happy to concede that this is a subjective truth, but not an objective truth. So that's the one way you can hold that language, but it doesn't describe the rest of the world. The fact that Mahdin finds the color blue the best color in the world does not mean it is the best color in the world, right? It's a subjective truth in the sense that it is mind dependent. So one of the first things I said, once we set the goal of truth being a mind independent truth, independent to your desires, wishes, ambitions, prejudices. That's what we mean by truth. That's what usually most people would mean. Is it true irrespective of my feelings? Soon as we set that as the goal, that's when logic, the laws of logic, that's when science, the scientific methodology, that's when observations becomes paramount. And that's how you can justify all of those. That's when inductions become paramount. This is in the philosophy of science called like an instrumentalist view or a pragmatic view of truth, in the sense that we have certain goals, certain values. Like I want to know the truth, and if you want to know the truth, you will prioritize those methodologies that I've just illustrated, like science and analytical thinking and logic. Now, if you don't want to know the truth, then you won't. And this is why I'm saying to Daniel that all of the things that he's talked about, when he said, what he said, show me that maximally, analytical thinking is more oriented to the truth. Prove it to me. I just did. There you go. Because it depends what he means by the truth. What do you mean by the truth, Daniel? Do you just mean feelings? Do you just mean feelings? That's not the truth. That's your feelings. If you mean by the truth something that is true outside of your brain, outside of your mind, then yes, those other analytical truths are the way to do it. How else are you going to do it?
All right, Mahdin, I just wanted to make a few points. Maybe we have already talked about it, so I might be repeating again. So one thing that I wanted to ask you guys, or just pose a question to anybody who's listening, is why would somebody weigh over innate intuitions over something like analytical thinking, which has quite a huge proven track record, basically, right? So has there been any study done that a lot of our intuitions that have gone awry or wrong, basically our basic intuition about fear, something we fear, right? This is like basic intuition.
Yeah, I mean,
and most of the times those kind of intuitions are wrong, right? And
that's what.
but we don't. Sorry.
No, I'll let you. You can finish off. I just want to say, even your assumption that it needs to be right or wrong. What does it right or wrong mean? Is it true?
Right. Does it manifest in the reality or not? That's the question.
There you go. See, you're already assuming my standard of truth. Right. My standard of truth is it mind independently true? Right?
Right. Agreed.
You have to adopt that. Now, if you throw that out, then what does Haqiqatjou mean by truth, other than mind independently true? He just means, I don't even know what he means. He just means, he has no standard. At least I have a standard that makes sense, right? And
I agree.
As soon as you say, is these intuitions true? You assume my definition of analytical thinking. But he's saying we don't need analytical thinking. These are true without analytical thinking. But then what? Then I would ask him, define truth. What do you mean by truth? If he says something like it's mind independently true, then clearly that's not, because the intuition, let's say the intuition that I have of mathematical intuition that if you fold a newspaper 50 times, it will be like 100 inches in width, is wrong. Apparently it's 10 to the power of something. It goes beyond the universe, right? Now that is Sam Harris gives that example, something like that. I can't remember exactly. Somebody might correct me. But basically, if you fold a newspaper many times, it apparently, in terms of its width, exceeds the size of the universe. Or it's very large, basically. If it doesn't
exceeds by a billion times, basically. Yeah. Right.
Now let's imagine this was universal. That this is something that everybody naturally believes, right? Now, when Haqiqatjou says that we don't need analytical thinking for that, this is true just because we hold it in our head. What does he mean by then it's true? What does he mean by true? Does he mean that it describes the world independent of my feelings correctly? Well, then he's adopting my standard.
Right. There needs to be a certain substantiation of it, basically.
Yeah, it demands substantiation, and it's not true then. But then it's not true, right? The people who believe that the newspaper being folded this many times will only create 50 inches or 100 inches. Actually, it goes beyond the universe. Therefore, it's wrong. Therefore, the intuition was wrong. If any other definition of truth that Haqiqatjou uses will go beyond my definition, then we're not even talking about the truth anymore. In other words, Haqiqatjou is not talking about the truth. Haqiqatjou is making something up. It has nothing to do with reality. He's just having a laugh. And his principle, and he just declares it like a dictator that this is the way to do it. This is the way to do what?
He's redefining the truth, basically. He's
Yeah.
redefining the truth in a sense.
Exactly, he's redefining the truth and he's moving away. This is why when you have a this is what I always remember. If I used to argue when we used to talk about morality, everything has a goal, and I used to compare it to logical axioms. Because if you want to know the truth, you have to use the logical axioms. If you want to know moral truth, you have to use the moral axioms. Yeah, it all comes down to a value judgment, and the value judgment that I'm making, that all humans make when they want to make the truth, is within the philosophy of science called like the pragmatist school or the instrumentalist school, right? In which, if our goal is to find out the truth, there are certain methods that you have to use. That is the justification for that method, those methods. That is the justification behind logic, behind science. But if you don't want to find out the truth, yeah, you can do all these other things, like jump around like Haqiqatjou, like say my feelings. But Haqiqatjou defines the truth as it feels. If it's part of my feelings, then it's the truth. But that's not what most people mean by the truth. I don't mean by the truth. Now, so when me and Haqiqatjou sits down, when he says to me that his definition of truth is his feelings, a universal feeling, and I say to him, my definition of truth is the opposite. It's not about just my feelings. It's about what's true, irrespective of my feelings. Then we just have to shake hands and agree to disagree, because I want to know whether God actually exists beyond my brain. I want to know whether, like the sun exists, God exists. Haqiqatjou doesn't want to know that. Haqiqatjou just wants to feel it in his heart, like a child, right?
I think that would be Mahdin, the shortest debate in the history of debating, pretty much, right?
Yeah. So this is what I think Matt should have said. He said he wants to know the truth, and Haqiqatjou just playing around with words.
All right, shall we move on then? Khayalie, you want to add something, or
No, maybe I should add that. But okay. So, can you open up that link? So,
which
the
one
last
you
thing that I sent you ahead, but the last link that I've shared.
The last one, right?
It's the last one, yes.
Okay.
It will open up a video. So basically, I just wanted to point out something that I found out that Justin. Yeah.
Sorry. Is this by the Magic Skeptic or another terrible
yes. Magic Skeptic.
All right.
So in this, I couldn't find the actual part of the interview. But he actually included it in his video. So I've just give you the link with the timestamp. So if you click it, it will open the exact video at the exact time that I want you to start it from.
Let me just see.
And what you'll see is that it's an interview of Justin Barrett, who is mentioned by Daniel as well, and Hamza's also mentions. This is often presented. His studies are presented as an evidence that children have an innate belief in God, and he's pointing out in this interview that what's interesting is that children are actually, in terms of believing the supernatural, they find all these supernatural beliefs equally reasonable and equally likely. They're bound to, they feel like believing in all of these supernatural beliefs equally. So if you open up that interview, I think it's an interesting part.
It's on the screen, right? Can you see it?
Yes. It is. You can play.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think we'll see what happens, but I totally agree with what you just said about those beliefs, right?
If you can play that. Yes.
So children at around age 3 actually treat all of the supernatural agents in their cultural context as about the same, even if the adults don't think that they're all very smart. And this was really shown nicely in a study that Nicola Knight and I did with Mayan children on the Yucatan Peninsula. We not only investigated what their view of the Catholic God was, but also the sun god and the forest spirits and some other sort of minor deities who the adults don't regard as particularly smart or clever. But the young children treated them all as super smart. They know everything. And then with age, by the time they're about 7 years old, they're actually starting to discriminate amongst all of these different agents. Which ones are the smart ones, which ones don't know so much, which ones really are even dumber than people. And they start discriminating that already by age 7, while there is developmental support for the idea that that there is this creator God that's super powerful and super knowing and immortal. That doesn't mean that children are naturally believe in only one God or believe in God of the Christian tradition or something like that. That's not the case. They just have an amazing conceptual receptivity to it, as if it's sort of just waiting for the right cultural input to sort of be locked in there. But that doesn't mean they're going to believe in one and only one God. In fact, it looks like humans are naturally predisposed to think about lots of different supernatural beings.
Doesn't this demonstrate that belief
You
in a
can pause it.
particular God?
So
All right, this is what I
yeah,
was
I mean,
saying. Why it is
yeah.
more, and kids especially are more predisposed to believing in, a multitude of deities or whatever the supernatural agents, basically, right? So, I mean, this corroborates that intuition in a sense. But whether Haqiqatjou is gonna go and admit to that, okay, no, then our Tawheed or monotheism is wrong. That intuition says that polytheism is probably a better hypothesis on our intuitions. Yeah, I think barring what Mahdin said, that the whole thing of proving his intuition, if he takes this approach, this could be one objection that could be made to his
In,
Yeah.
he does mention it once in his I think he'll mention it in his opening debate, or maybe opening statement, or maybe during the cross questioning section. But he does mention that monotheism and belief in God and all these things are innately built into our psychology. So he does mention monotheism, but even then I was skeptic of this monotheistic beliefs being innate. So, and I think I did find out that this is not the case,
But the
and you
thing
can
is,
see that
yeah,
throughout human history as well.
and just to emphasize again some of the things that I've said, yeah, there is no child that is born in the world in these studies, in these particular studies, that has no contact with any learning or experience that would make them more susceptible to infer a creator or creators, yeah, over
Right.
a natural explanation. Reason, and therefore the idea that this is just some sort of sense built into one's biology, right, is incorrect. We can't establish that. Reason being, by the time a child has seen his mom or her mom cook food, dad build things, that cars come from, the natural learned inference is that trees are made as well, or bushes, are made. By the way, even that is contradicted by many different studies outside of Barrett. I urge anybody who's listened to this to Google something called John Shook's paper. He did a review on it, a 2017 paper about whether or not belief in God is innate or not. And he shows that there is no consensus, and it doesn't seem like it. There's plenty of people born in tribes and so on with no conception of such thing, right? Those who have an affinity towards those explanations, just think about it for a minute. If you're a child who already has a socialized recognition of the fact that objects are made by people, things are manufactured, then you're just engaging in the clockmaker analogy. A child might be just engaging in the clockmaker analogy when he thinks the world is also created by a person or persons, right? So it doesn't show that it's some sort of faculty in the brain. It's more so that you've learned something from your primitive state when you're a baby, and you apply that learning to the universe. But then as you grow up, just like for everything else, for example, you learn something when you're small, like you can't, we're made out of solid objects or something, and matter is like this, but then you become a physicist and you have completely different understandings of the reality, right? The reason is because when you're a baby, you don't understand that. And when you grow up and you become a PhD physicist, you start realizing, wait a minute, 99% of matter is empty space or something like that, which is very, very weird, okay? So what? But that doesn't mean, first of all, the kid's intuition is correct or valid. Of course not. But even if it was like a faculty of the brain, but it doesn't even show it was a faculty of the brain. It could just be a primitive learning that gets applied to a sphere that is beyond its domain, right? just like our primitive learnings of time, maybe it's learned, maybe it's natural. Primitive learning of time creates the illusion that time is absolute, like Newtonian time. But then Einstein comes along, yeah, and changes all that. Of course, a baby's Haqiqatjou. Why should I predicate my understandings of the world based on a baby's brain or a child's brain? Why would I? Why not? I went to school not to listen to a baby or a child. I went to school to learn things learned by adults. That's the issue here.
Right.
Yeah.
And just to Mahdin, add to a very point that you mentioned, that a child might base this on his experience, right? And a very important point that I'd like to raise over here is, I think Daniel also mentions Oliver Petrovic. Let me
Petrovich,
see
yeah.
the name. Petrovich. And what I've found very interesting is, in one study, which she's a lady, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the way the approach that she has taken to the questionnaire that she has prepared, it's such a leading questionnaire that what you just said is actually what might be happening over here. So I'm just looking at an article in which she mentions how she, what was this sort of way she put up this questionnaire to children. So it's mentioned that, for example, she would show the 4 to 14-year-old children a picture of a book on a table and ask, "Who put this book there?" The kids replied, "Mom." Then
Yes.
she would put a picture of the sun in front of them and ask, "Who placed the sun in the sky?" And the young Britons answered, "God." And to Petrovich's surprise, the Japanese contemporaries said, "Kami-sama." And Kami-sama is probably the Japanese name for God. So interestingly, you could see that this is such a leading question that she would first ask the children to sort of to program in a way, not that very explicitly, but giving the children an impression that we are expecting an agent, a conscious agent, in your answer. So she would put the question, "Who put the book there?" They would answer, "Mom." And then the way that she asked the question about the sun was, "Who placed the sun in the sky?" So when you naturally ask the question as "who,"
Yes. A
I
the
leading
think it's a
children are
loaded
naturally
question in a
inclined.
sense.
It's a loaded
Yeah.
question. So the
Right.
children are in a way anchored in to, or in a way, automatically going to respond with something, with a conscious or personal, personal agent. And I think they're aware of a concept of God, and they would say, "Yes, God." So I mean, what you just mentioned is, I think it's quite obvious in this study. I mean, this is just an inference that we can draw from the study, some problem that we are noticing. Maybe it's nothing, but so this is a problem that we can see.
Right, right. Yeah, I think one of the thing I was wondering, let's give them the benefit of the doubt that even an year-old or 2-year-old can have a kind of an intuition about some, supernatural agency. I don't know. I think maybe we did talk about this in our last stream as well. How would someone come to know, or how would researchers even come to know if that is true or not, right? Because they'll have to collect the data from their minds, basically, which probably they are not able to express themselves as
Just before
clearly,
you
right?
finish, just before you finish, sometimes you can do that with babies in the sense that you can ask a baby who is capable of learning a language to some extent. If you say, for
Right.
example, cow, he may not be able to do anything about it, right? Or suggest
Mhm.
that he understands. But they've done experiments where, even like an maybe like a 12 to 15-month child, when you say something like cow and you have a picture of a cow, they look at the cow for longer. And if you say tiger, they look out for the tiger or something. I'm not sure it's 15th month or 18th month or maybe 2 years. I can't remember.
Okay. Right.
Something like that could be potentially done, but even there, it doesn't show that learning is not an issue. If you apply that
Right,
methodology,
but I'm saying these are physical objects, right? And you're talking about something beyond this world, beyond what you claim to be, supernatural. You're claiming, right? So even what their conception is, it's something is what I'm challenging, basically, right?
no,
And
what I mean is, if you could say to a baby like, "Who made this?" or something,
right,
in
right.
principle, I don't think the baby has the ability to understand things to that level, like complex sentences.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The point I'm trying to raise over here is what kind of an indication they are giving. Basically, what their understanding is probably,
Yes.
do they mean God by, what they have in mind, basically. But anyways, where I was trying to get was, what evolutionary relic could this intuition serve, basically, or a purpose could this intuition serve, basically. And I don't know, I'm just throwing a very wild hypothesis over here.
I know
It
exactly
might
what
be
you mean. I've studied this before in the sense whether or not God or religion is an evolutionary
relic of something, basically.
adaptation or not.
Right.
I think some people think that it might be like a byproduct of several other
Right,
things, right? So religion, or even a monotheistic God or polytheistic God, I think the consensus within evolutionary psychologists is that it is not an adaptation, rather it's a byproduct of several other adaptations that
Right.
that made it in one historical period of time more
It
susceptible.
serves some purpose, right? It did serve them.
And now, so it's a complex relationship between our nature and the environment. That at one historical period of time, that was the consequence of our genetic and environmental interaction, right? Reason being, there might be certain adaptations that made religion more susceptible.
Evolutionary advantages.
Yeah, exactly. So things like the things that I've talked about, from causal agency detection or hyperactive agency detection. Sorry, which is if you hear a bristle in the forest, you are more likely to infer that there's a person, or you may be more likely to look at faces or find faces in stars, in the sky, in the water, stuff like that, right? In other words, we anthropomorphize nature. But that's not the same thing as an adaptation towards God. It's an adaptation towards people or persons or agents. But that also means that, because we have that adaptation, we might steer towards or be more attracted to or gravitate towards explanations about the universe that sounds more personal or anthropomorphic. So that's one explanation, trying to say that religion itself isn't, or monotheism or polytheism itself is not an adaptation. It's a byproduct of a more central adaptation, such as the causal agency detection and some other stuff as well. These are proposals; they're not 100% known, but stuff like ancestor worship, right? Religion may have been a byproduct of your respect towards your grandparents. And so on, and so on, and because you want to respect,
There is another hypothesis for ancestor.
A lot of Chinese culture is like that, right? In China, it is still practiced, the ancestor worship, right?
Yes. So religion would be a byproduct of that, and that might be an adaptation. That particular because sorry, go on.
Sorry, yeah, just to add, the ancestor, worship might be. There's a hypothesis again, and it's untestable. But the hypothesis is that people would have seen or met their dead relatives in their dreams, which would have made them made them believe that maybe they're still alive somewhere in an alternate realm, where or in the form of spirit.
Exactly.
So that might have been, that is just a hypothesis, but not my hypothesis. I don't remember the I don't know the author who mentioned this, but this is I feel this is a very good hypothesis to explain the ancestor worship concept and the spirit concept that we have.
Exactly. Yeah. So there could have been an evolutionary benefit from that by preserving or keep looking after ancestors, or maybe there was a need to value the elderly, right? but there was no pragmatic utility, and evolution is very cold, right? So that sort of adaptation may have created a preference for valuing the lives of the destitute, those who have become elderly and dysfunctional in society. It could very well be that just like a baby. Why is a baby very cute? Well, the cuteness evolved so that we feel empathic towards it. So we go, oh, it's a nice, cute baby, and then we protect the baby, and the baby has a self-interest. The genes have from the gene point of view, the baby's genes survives because we protect the baby. And the proposal here is that there may be an alternative elderly worship thing going on. But why would the elderly's genes want to be propagated into the future? Well, because there might be a trade-off. By preserving the elderly, elderly possibly help us in many other things, right? For example, taking care of our children is why many evolutionary psychologists say that women, when they go into menopause and become grandmothers, they serve a benefit to the family by taking care of their daughter's children or son's children. They become like a caretaker. And this sort of reciprocal relationship from a gene point of view is beneficial for everybody. And therefore, that sort of adaptation is a good thing. And therefore, the ancestor worship might be a product of that. And then religion becomes more religious explanations or religious organizations we're more likely to be susceptible to as a result of ancestor worship.
Right.
And there's more explanations why religion sometimes in-group, out-group, grouping humans together very easily. Religion serves a very good benefit to doing that. Evolutionary psychology thinks that there's no direct adaptation for grouping and congregating humans together into in-groups and out-groups. Religion hasn't evolved as an adaptation because some very rare, I think psychologists think that, but it's not like a consensus. But a lot of them think that religion falls into the cracks of this attraction that we have towards grouping people together. The evidence shows that we can form groups arbitrarily with any flag or banner, anything. Like you can take a group of children and say, you're group 1, you're group 2, and then they'll become very hostile to each other. Group 1, just because they're in group 1, will think group 2 deserves less rights. Group 2 are not human, they're subhuman. Basically,
the famous Stanford study.
That's another one. Yeah. So children,
or something like that. Yeah.
It shows that it's not directly the case that it's religion that does it. It's just a general tendency within humans to form groups.
Right.
It might be a byproduct of a very old version of that group. And why is it not here today? Is because we've advanced scientifically, philosophically, knowledge-wise, through our ethics and resources. But back in like 20 centuries ago or something, 10 centuries ago, that was the modus operandi. Yeah, that was the group, and therefore religion falls as a byproduct of that attraction that we have. So the main adaptation is to in-group, out-groupness, not to religion. But back in the day, primitive humans formed it as a religion. Today, it's different. Today it might be like a secular democracy, Germany, England, USA, etc. And even further than that, the left and the right in politics, right? The left wing, are you a feminist? Are you anti-feminist, etc.?
All right, great, Mahdin. What I was thinking was to stop our review over here and let's see if somebody wanted to come join us and talk to us, maybe throw in their ideas, their criticisms of our points, or whatever they may have. What do you guys think?
Somebody's asking a question
here. I think let's read all the comments and then stop to the question, right? All right, let's go. This universe is a perception, Maya. With the current sense of organ, you can never see the truth until you reach a certain level, and in that also you can just have glimpse of it. All right. Well, again, that's an intuition, by the way. So I'm not gonna delve deeper into it. But I know there's a new age spiritual believers have all these sort of beliefs, and this is more prevalent in probably Indian subcontinent. But we are probably not gonna go there because that's gonna derail our topic, right? All right, you can't put percentage on how much space is empty as we don't know how big it is, right? I think that's a fair comment. And what's beyond the empty space? All right, I think.
Well, I think that's a comment from when I said that much of matter is empty, like atoms are empty. I think that's a bit different, right? When you say,
I think that's the same. There's so much empty space within the atoms, as you said, right, Mahdin? And then probably this statement is fair as well, but then maybe not responding to the same point that you were probably.
no, because I think this comment came when I said that. Otherwise, why?
Right.
I think he's trying to dispute the point that I made, but we're using the empty space definition in a different context. Me saying atoms are fundamentally and empty is different from what he's saying about empty space, because he's talking about the parameters of the broader universe. I think, anyway, if I can charitably interpret him, that's possibly what he means. Is space as in overall space? Well, overall space, yeah, we may not know, although it does say it's 14 or 13, whatever billion years old, and whether it has any barriers or boundaries. And cosmologists might be best, or astronomers might be best to explain that. But when you say our matter is fundamentally empty,
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Let's move on. This is from just Jess. Well, I can say I was not born with belief in the deity God, any of the descriptions in religions. I considered myself atheist from age 5 and spiritual, not religious since 25 because of science. All right. Just if you want to join, or even Sadhana Chaturta, if you want to join, talk to us. Maybe I'm not quite sure how much we're going to talk about, your belief, but you can just try coming and talking about it, and to just as well, if you want to come in and join and maybe point us anything different that you think of what has been spoken already about this debate. I don't want to disturb your conversation, but if possible, can you give me the reference of your statement of millions of gods? Okay, I think that's a fair statement. I think we'll have to search for it, and maybe if you join the next time, maybe if there is something, we'll say. See, there are different interpretations of it, I think, right? So I think we are not going to dispute it. We talk.
What is he talking about? What is he talking about?
I think I made a statement about, in Sanatan Dharma there are like 33 koti gods or something like that, and there are different interpretations of this koti word, right? And there are interpretations that say there are 33 crore, or what is a crore? It's 10 million probably. A crore is a 10 million, something like that. 33, which means 333 million gods or something like that. And I said that, and that's what is being disputed by this person.
Right.
Right. And all I'm going to say is that I don't have the understanding of the Vedas or the scriptures as much, but I'll try to find it out if I can. But what I have heard is there are different definitions of that word, basically, right? The koti word that's been, talked about here. I think where were we?
The next one, you've already seen that one. The next one.
Yeah. Yes, here.
Yeah.
I must be the exception.
Well, he was talking about this. He was talking about this particular one. So he basically we dealt with that. Yeah, I mean. Exactly. Some of these studies, what these studies are doing is they're not looking at really atheistic populations. I would like to see, for example, a population of children of Sweden and so on, and
or even China, right?
Where the parents are actually atheistic. But even there, it won't be surprising if the child makes an inference from the fact that parents make things that basically, the whole point of an intuition or a faculty in the brain is that you don't need informational input. It's not learned. It's just something hardwired, right? But if you are learning about it, that is an indirect form of learning, right? You just see your parents make cake, and then if somebody asks you where did the sun come from, you might just think the sun. You're not going to think sun came on its own because you've
Right.
learned
Your
through your
faculties haven't.
people, right?
Yes.
In other words, the kid might have a natural understanding. No, sorry, not natural, an artificial understanding of the watchmaker argument, right?
See, they don't have the capability to think that things can come on their own, right? This is where their brain hasn't yet developed to that part of the world.
Mm.
Basically, everything that's around them is happening is by agency, pretty much, right? The plate moves because it's an agency. Mom moves it. Food is cooked because it's an agency. Mom cooks it, or whatever, right? So that understanding of the world that is kind of develop it separately when you grow a little older, that things can happen on their own, basically, right?
Even if you're born in a village, if you're like a feral child, you're gonna learn that animals create things, right? You don't. This is the kind of general understanding that you'll get. Even a feral child would come to the realization that he himself makes certain things, right? And you would
Right.
think so. It's the point I'm trying to say is it's hard to separate or disentangle the effects of learning from what is natural, right? Unlike let's say your eyesight, you don't need to learn that your eyesight. You don't need to learn about eyesight. You just have eyesight. You don't need to learn
Exactly.
about
Hearing,
your
hearing, right?
but something like the sun is made out of a person, made by a person, can easily be the case because you learned through your experiences, through artificial conditioning, that people make things, even including yourself, because you might make food. So even the feral child, when he gets of a particular age, after he makes his own shelter, makes his own food, hunts, he might anthropomorphize, and it's very hard to disentangle his own experience of hunting, cooking, and so on, disentangle that from what is natural, and he may use his own experience, his own learning, to then infer that just like he makes things, the sun was made by a person or persons. So you can never, therefore, these studies can never really get to this in a strong sense.
And don't you think an interesting question would be to ask such children, well, who created God?
Hmm. Yeah. And if
That's
they,
Because
if they say
that's beyond
God,
syllabus. That's beyond syllabus. That's
yeah,
not in the syllabus, right?
if they're using that kind of logic, I think we might
Right,
be able to identify that pattern through that question, right? If it's
right.
innate, then they might say, well, no, God. Let's assume they might say, well, no, it's innate. Nobody created God. But if they say, well, maybe God's father or God's mother, or something like that, then we'll be able to, maybe, this is just a thought that I had, maybe
I
we'll
think,
be able to
yeah,
identify some sort of
I
pattern.
think the idea nobody created God would stand a bit weird as well to them,
Ex-
right? Because
exactly,
first of all,
that's what I'm saying. I
they're not
think they're more
actually,
inclined to say that
yeah.
maybe God's father created, or maybe
Yeah.
God's mother
Keep in mind,
created that.
yeah. Kylie, though, keep in mind when they say somebody created like a sun or something, they're not actually saying God created it. They're not thinking an omnipotent,
It's
absolute
an agency they're pointing
agent,
to. It's an
very
agent.
powerful. Yeah, they'll automatically assume power because they think the sun is such a big thing that you need to be really powerful. Yeah, but they're not going to think they're infinitely powerful, and therefore, when you say what created God, I think that they will get. My suspicion is they'll get confused and go, wait a minute. Yeah,
You know,
maybe.
Madhav,
Yeah.
I'll
Madhav, there is
I'll
one
mention
point.
an
I mean, you
interesting.
see till what age they believe in Santa Claus, that Santa Claus brings the, presents and all those Santa Claus can
Mm,
do. So this goes on until pretty late age. But then there's a belief that then Santa Claus can do pretty much everything. And so this agency of thinking like way beyond powerful and all, they are only thinking about an agency that can do something, right? And that could be just some big daddy, pretty much, right? And it's not
mm,
necessarily something
mm.
grander than the universe or something like that, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah.
I I was listening to Haris Sultan, and he made a very interesting he mentioned a very interesting story of his own life. He mentioned that, I mean, from childhood, he used to listen from his parents that, God is God is very big and he's this and that, right? So, he had this conception of, God is very big. So the first time he saw a very tall building and a very huge building, he asked his mother, "Is this God?" Because he had this conception of a very big thing. So this is the kind
Okay,
of,
you got that
yeah,
that Chrysler building over there. That's God,
yeah,
basically. Or now it's the God has moved from the United
yeah,
States of America to Dubai. Basically, the Burj Khalifa is the new God.
exactly. So I mean, this is the kind of conceptions that a child has about God. He is a
Yeah,
very
no,
anthropomorphized.
I'd say
Yeah.
something. But
So
when I used to imagine God, Allah, yeah, when I used to imagine Allah, I used to imagine the Kaaba with hands, with
you see,
arms,
yeah, I mean,
with
Did
arms.
you did you did you did you X-ray into it, by the way? Because that's the
Sorry?
house of God. That's the house of God, right? Did you
Yes.
X-ray into it to see God in there?
Sorry, I
no,
don't
no,
understand.
I
No, no,
mean,
no.
he used to
I'm
think
saying
Kaaba is God. Yeah.
No, no, I
I'm
used to think the Kaaba was God with
Oh,
arms. I used to
Kaaba was
imagine.
God. Okay.
I
No,
used to imagine this.
I'm just
Yeah,
teasing apart it, right?
yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah.
thinking Kaaba is God or God is
No,
inside
no, no,
Kaaba,
no,
right?
no. I wasn't that rational. So when I used to imagine, I wasn't. When I used to imagine God, I used to imagine the Kaaba with arms. Literally, each side of the Kaaba has an arm sticking out. That's what I used to imagine was God. That was God. Kylie, did you have anything like that? Did you have like
I cannot
something?
recall. I cannot recall such
Yeah.
physical conception of God. If I had it, I don't know. I cannot recall it.
Yeah.
All right,
But
let's
it's
move on to
interesting. I
the
mean,
yeah,
And I bet you, if you do a study on little kids, they would imagine the creator to be a physical person.
exactly. I think one
Yeah.
important question. So just like a question I mentioned, that who created God, I think a more easy question for them would be, what do you think God looks like? And I
Yes.
think how they'll answer is would be quite telling, right? Because they'll give you a very humane and anthropomorphized
humanistic, right?
view of
Awesome.
God.
Yeah.
Right,
Because
right,
immaterial stuff is slightly counterintuitive. You
Exactly.
right,
know.
right,
Yeah.
right. All right,
I think we are
Martin,
giving.
let's
I
read up.
think we are discussing quite a few ideas of how such studies should be, conducted.
No, but this is good. Basically, this is where we are prying apart the basic, the study that's
Right.
that has been given so much credence, and we have to take that study apart pretty much, right? Just looking at into the bare bones of that study, and all you can see from the kind of discussion we had is like there's no meat to it, pretty much, right? Any
Mm.
case, let's Madan read up these. Uh, just said something like, I believe God is no. I think where were we? We were here, right? I appreciate the offer, but I have too much anxiety in voice calls. Thank you. Just if you want, I don't know if you're not comfortable. Perfectly fine. You will never find 3.3 million because it's 33 different elements. All right, I don't understand, but I'll pretend I do. I believe God is neutral existence itself and doesn't require a name. Okay. God is no start, no end. I am my language. ईश्वर का ना कोई आदि है ना कोई अंत है, right? So what sadhana is saying is that in my language, God has no beginning and no end. I think that's the same Islamic understanding as well, pretty
Yeah,
much.
he's
And
awwal and akhir.
you're right, right. No, yeah, he has been there for eternity, and not even eternity. There's no conception of time for God, pretty much. And if you want to read
I
about
just
it,
want to know,
you can go to Surah Ikhlas and then maybe
what is the name of this commenter?
Sadhana Chaturta, right?
Okay.
Uh,
So
uh, uh,
sadhana, just want to ask you, do you
Sadhana is,
think?
by the way, it's a girl's name, I think, right?
Yes, I think so. That was my guess as well. So
Mm.
sadhana, do you just want to ask you, because I've heard some Hindus have mentioned that nothingness is, I mean, God is. Some Hindus have heard mentioning that nothingness is God, or God is nothingness. And I, is that your conception of God as well?
Yeah, good question to be asked, because you may have like 500 million people, and then they have they may have 500 million different conceptions of gods. And I'm
Yeah.
not ridiculing anybody here. That's not my intention, but that's something you'll encounter pretty much. And it's not even just in Hinduism. Pretty much even in Muslims, you go and everybody is going to have a very different understanding of the concepts, right? Somebody, well, apart from like the major uh, concept, basically, five namaz, or tawheed and all those things, right? Apart from that, you just trickle down from there and you have different conceptions, right?
Yeah, and yeah, you can join next time. Don't worry about it. You can't join today. You're very much welcome to join next time. We can have a discussion. We haven't emphasized, or we have not really focused too much on the Hindustani variety of religions, right?
Right.
I think maybe that it would be good if you want to come on the next podcast. You can make a defense, or even just have a discussion. It doesn't have to be like a debate. You can just have a conversation about your particular beliefs. We focus primarily on Islam, but it'll be good to have a start. I myself am not very familiar with it, with the Hindu religions or etc. I say Hindu religion because it's just a very big category, isn't it? And yeah, that's fine.
Neither am I.
Yeah. So, and thank you, Just Jess, for we appreciate anybody else who appreciates us. So, is that something that Philo you want to respond to? This?
Yeah, I think maybe we'll have to just look into the scripture. I'm so don't take my word for it. I said what I heard, and if I'm wrong, I'm willing to accept it. So I'll hold my whatever I said and say I'm probably wrong over there until I confirm, and maybe in one of the next streams probably we'll just do that. So, and this is something I'll just with a pinch of salt, I'm willing to take it. And the meanings of word I have heard are not yet, but there might be schools of thought who think that word has a very definitive meaning. So yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say at this
So
point.
yeah, so this commenter is saying he is not a girl, he is a male, and we didn't read one of his comments about. I think this is the comment. Is this the comment?
Yeah, it is not New Age. Advait Vedant is very old. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying okay. You see this thing. I'm talking about the spirituality. I'm not talking about Advait Vedant or whatever you may have. I think I should hold on going to that side of conversation, because since I don't have much knowledge about that, anything I say might not be right. So probably unless until I read up on it, I probably would hold on to commenting. Whatever you're saying, probably will assume that you have a better understanding, Sadhana. And unless I read up and then I have any points to challenge your points, I'll hold on to my comments. And if you consider that I have misspoken something, I'll apologize right away. Right. Shall we move on?
Yep. And let's just put this up so that people can, see that request.
I think somebody has joined. VK has joined us, right? All right. Hello, VK.
Hello everyone.
How are you doing? Good. I'm assuming you're from India.
Yeah.
All right. And you're.
I'm just here. Want to know? I don't know what's going on here.
So we are a bunch of atheists and ex-Muslims, right? And we talk about debates, mostly religions,
Okay.
and all that stuff. But for this video, for this stream, we were reviewing one of the debates between Dillahunty and Daniel Haqiqatjou. Daniel Haqiqatjou is a Muslim apologist.
No, I know
Dillahunty.
him. I know who Daniel Haqiqatjou.
Right.
I've seen his debate and reviews from ex-Muslims.
Right. And Matt Dillahunty is.
That
Have you seen Matt Dillahunty before?
no.
Okay, he's an atheist apologist, if I can say so. He used to be one of the main, main host of Atheist Experience channel, basically, Atheist of Austin or something like that. Now, since probably past 2 years or so, he has parted ways with them. But he does these debates, and his
Okay.
position is basically, as I said, he's an atheist, right?
Mhm.
What position do you hold, by the way?
I'm kind of what's going on. I don't know is God true or no,
Okay,
but
so
still you.
you're on the fence, basically. You're on the fence.
Yeah, yeah. Just
All right.
Hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
but what was your prior belief?
prior in the sense.
What did you believe earlier, basically? Did you have a belief in God or something, or gods or whatever, right?
I
I think your voice is breaking.
Hmm.
now is it
All
clear?
right. Now I can hear you. Your voice broke for a moment. I think.
Okay. I always had a questions from you. You are from India, right?
I'm from
Previously.
India. Then we are all from different parts of the world, basically,
Okay.
right? But
Okay.
we collectively call ourselves the Greater India, the pre-partition India, basically. Yeah,
Okay.
if I can call so, right?
Now,
Yeah. Do you have a question? Do you have anything?
Do you
Any
have a
particular
question?
question you want to ask?
not question. I'll tell about myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or
In its
we,
standard. Yes. Tell me.
sure. I mean, go ahead quickly, and then maybe it would be better if you ask a question, basically, because
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I just popped up here now. I don't know.
your voice is breaking.
Really don't have a question as of now. In the next session, maybe I'll ask it.
Sure. Yeah, you keep joining, keep listening, and then maybe we can have a longer conversation with you, know
Mm-hmm.
about you, and then you can ask a question as well to
Yeah.
us back on. And if
Yeah. So
you,
what we can do is, if you have a question, you can stay here. But if you have a question, what we'll do is continue to review the video, and if you want to like
I have
participate,
a question.
yeah.
Question in the sense how Haqiqatjou is still living in USA, because
Okay.
I've seen one of his debate when the guy was asking about the child marriage. He always saying that if the girl is menstruation, then we can
Yeah.
marry her.
Yes, Maria.
So yeah,
so
as per
yeah.
US law.
I mean, he's supporting. I'll shorten your
Yeah,
point
he's
and put
supporting,
your point across.
but
He's supporting child marriage,
yeah.
basically, and which
Hmm.
is so having a viewpoint on this is not a crime, basically, right? But acting upon it is, right, and this is within the constitution, right?
Yeah. VK, I mean, there is something in the United States Constitution, the First Amendment, I think, and that gives everybody a right to hold particular views,
No.
uncontested. Yeah, as long as you're not harming anybody else, usually
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
hold that belief. So if you otherwise you will not be able to introduce any sort of law. Like if you want to change a U.S. law, for example, to change the age of marriage, you can do that through a proper through democracy, through the
No.
through the
I'm
legislature.
no.
Um,
You can you can you mute
yeah,
your yeah,
yes,
because
yeah. You will have to go through the legislature. Otherwise, nobody will be able to hold somewhat weird beliefs. You're allowed to do that as long as you don't act upon it. Then it will become a crime. But even if it was a crime, it doesn't necessarily mean you lose citizenship, right? There are unless again, I'm not a U.S. lawyer, but unless you are on a conditional basis in the country in which if you contravene your license to stay, which may involve having a good criminal character, in those circumstances, it might violate your right to citizenship. But if you are natural born American citizen, or you become an American citizen for a long time and then commit a crime, it doesn't necessarily mean they can deport you, right? So again, I'm not an American immigration lawyer, but I think it's something similar to that. Yeah, just like in the United Kingdom, if a Muslim commits a crime, or anybody commits a crime, you don't necessarily get deported. However, there are certain circumstances in which if you are not a natural citizen, or you are attempting to get citizenship, in that middle of that, you commit a crime, or a particular type of crime, like act of terrorism, right? And furthermore, if you commit an act of terrorism and you have a dual citizenship, in those situations, it might get a bit murky, right? If you know, in the UK, the Shamima Begum situation, in which they tried to renounce her citizenship, and so on. So in those sort of circumstances, the Home Office, the certain parts of our government can unilaterally withdraw citizenship, but they're very unique situations. In America, I don't think just supporting child marriage is enough, especially when many states in America do have laws allowing children to get what we consider for children to get married, in particular states, with the parents' approval around age of 15 or 14, 12, depends. I think like the southern states, some of them have those laws. So yeah, it's not an automatic ground for deportation.
All right, BK, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was good. But I was thinking that what will be the impact of his message on the community of Islam, right?
Right. I think what you're thinking is, see, he's in a sense, you can keep two different views about Daniel Haqiqatjou, right? I'll tell you. He's being honest about what is written in the scriptures, first thing, right? So you can say that, okay, he's an honest person, right? He's not making, what do you call, mental gymnastics
He's
to
not.
read
Yeah,
something
he's not
into
cooking up something. Yes.
but he's not saying that he should, or one should do that as well, right? So he's not saying I'm gonna defy the law and then do those actions that I'm saying are permitted in Islam. He's saying if at all at some point in future any country falls under Sharia law and he's living under those countries, then these things are permissible, right? Under those laws,
Yeah.
right? And that's perfectly fine. Any and every country has their own set of laws, right? Some would say, age of marriage is 15 years. Some would say 18 years. Some would say 14 years, right? So, if you look deeply, I mean, if you see his whole thing in context, then he's not defying any law, basically. That's what I have to say, right? I mean, to you, it might sound really, not up to your whatever standards you hold to, but that is no cause for America to deport him, or for, somebody might, see him in a negative light, and that's perfectly fine. Many do. Even a lot of Muslim scholars do not agree with him. In fact, a large majority of American Muslim scholars do not agree with his take. And he's a Salafi in that sense. So there you go. Khayalie might be able to add more to it. If Khayalie, do you have any point to add to?
I don't think that Khayalie's mic is your mic still muted?
Yeah, Khayalie's mic is muted. Khayalie, are you there? All right.
Yeah.
All right, BK.
Yes.
Do you have anything, a last point to add? Then we'll probably move on.
No. I think I should leave now.
All right.
It is
Cool.
too late.
It was nice. Yeah, nice to have you here.
Nice.
And yeah, just maybe next time, whenever you do, listen to the stream, and if you have a question regarding the stream, that'll be much better. You can always ask any other question as well, not a problem. So listen to it and see if you find anything, if you find it useful, to hear to such conversation, then let us know. And if you can, do comment beneath the video once once this stream is over, right? And spread the word, please. All right, thanks for dropping by, VK.
Yeah, discussion was very good. I like the discussion more than debates.
All right, great. Yeah, that's our hope as well. I mean, if you want to run a world in a smooth way, you should not debate and then try to, okay, I just have to win. Your goal should be to get to the truth, basically, right? And that's probably our best is to.
Tomorrow I need to work. I need to leave now. Yeah. Thank you. Have a good day or night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Mahdin.
Let's just quickly go through finish the video, and come on.
All right. Khayalie will be back, he said, right?
Yeah. Just go through it, run through it now, because I think we might be bothering a bit bothering the audience that we're running so slow.
For time, both societies experience technological and economic growth, but society A experiences this faster. This allows society A to dominate society B. Society A then imposes analytic thinking on its newly acquired subjects by establishing an analytic-focused school system. In this way, analytic thinking spreads and dominates more and more societies until it dominates the entire globe. The societies with the most extreme emphasis on analytic thinking win out. That's modern history in a nutshell. Researchers like Joseph Heinrich have explained this history in books like The Secret of Our Success. Now, the fact that analytic thinking can accelerate technology and growth, that sounds like a great thing. But the big question is, just because analytic thinking excels at producing technology, does that mean that maximizing it is better suited to determine truth? I'm not claiming that analytic thinking has no connection to the truth. But again, when you maximize this type of thinking, that means that your analytic capacities start overshadowing intuitions about the world that are also very compelling. Throughout history, all peoples felt intuitively that there were moral, aesthetic, and religious truths about life and purpose, and many of these truths were based on intuitions that were universally shared by all humanity. Now, if you told all these people that they have to reject their intuitions and adopt analytic extremism, which ultimately will bring into doubt all these other...
Yeah, so we've already addressed all of this. Analytical thinking is connected to truth.
Right. I think we have already covered a lot.
Yeah, it isn't connected to truth. Yeah, you can still have aesthetic truths in the sense that it's true for aesthetic. Something is beautiful is in the eye of the beholder, and that could be true for Ryan and not true for Jake, not true for Charlie, not true for Hassan, not true for Chan. You know, you can have
You forgot some South Asian names.
Yeah, I have to be politically correct. I don't want to sound like the brown guy. He's quoting only English names, like the guy, right? I don't want to be one of those guys. You know
what happened to Kobayashi?
Pardon?
What happened to Kobayashi?
Yeah. Yeah. So intuitive thinking does not produce the truth most of the time. In a sense, morals can be understood not through necessarily. Again, he conflates, I think, a lot of analytical thinking with empiricism, a strong empirical approach. No, you can understand morals through analytical truth. Okay, so let me just be clear. When Haqiqatjou uses the word analytical thinking, he means application of the brain to data. Yeah, application of the brain to logic, application of science. He means a whole host of these very, very Western canons that have emerged of thinking, you know, the rules of rationality, the rules of logic, the rules of science, scientific methods.
Think he's conflating it with both empiricism as well as analytical thinking. So he's not distinguishing between those two. He's just He's lumping them together in one.
Yeah, because let me just say that there's an issue of semantics here. Within philosophy, there is the analytical and synthetic distinction, and that is different to how he is using the word analytical thinking. He just means using logic and reason, maybe the identification of fallacies, observations. He's using it to talk about all of these things, right? He's talking about science and logic. Whereas
he's combining them too. Yeah.
And he's not wrong there. He's not wrong in a layperson conventional sense, like in other disciplines, like psychology, like in humanities and social sciences. They may refer to analytical thinking to mean those things versus intuitive thinking, which is emotional thinking, right? And so he's using a different parlance. When I say analytical thinking, I sometimes do switch between the two usages, but then sometimes within philosophy there is the analytical synthetic distinction. Synthetic truths are discovered through observations, Analytic truths are discovered through definitions, logic,
Yeah,
right?
logic,
Yeah. So
math, right.
all bachelors are unmarried. A square has to have 4 90-degree right angles. Triangles have 3 sides. Stuff like that. Those are analytical truths, and they are true by definitions. They're tautologies. So that's a different version of analytical thinking. Now, when I say when Haqiqatjou says you can't get morals other than intuition, you can't do it through analytical thinking, he probably means you can't get it through empiricism. He possibly means also you can't do it through analytical thinking in the philosophical sense, like all bachelors are married, or squares has to have 4 sides and 4 90-degree right angles. He possibly means that. He's not very clear about this. If he does mean that, then he's just plainly wrong, because I do think that it'll be hard to justify morality empirically, but you can think of it as a necessary truth, just analogous to mathematics. 1 + 1, and you've seen me make this case multiple times. Many philosophers make a similar case. Shelley
Right.
a similar case. These are atheist philosophers. Shelley Kagan debated William Lane Craig on morality, and I think beated him. Right? He did a very strong performance, and because he's a very, very he has good interpersonal skills, I think, to explain these things. And Haqiqatjou does not know this, or isn't fleshing it out like that. Indeed, you can make a robust defense of morality through the philosophical analytical thinking, right? And that falls under the banner of overall analytical thinking, which involves science and logic. And therefore, he's just wrong there to say that we can only get to these things through intuition. Not really. Yeah,
I think I agree with you with your point that these you can arrive at morality using analytical thinking pretty much. And I think I'm not quite sure why Daniel thinks so. He's not too clear, at least to me it seems. But
I think this is theists often claim that anyone who doesn't believe in God have no basis for morality. So I think this is a very common, what we would consider misconception among theists.
I think that's the same line of argument even William Lane Craig holds pretty much, right? If you don't have, if you don't believe in God, there's no objective morality, right? So I think. Anyway, shall we move on?
Yeah. I think we're taking a lot of time here.
Right.
Their intuitions, most people would not accept that. But unfortunately, people don't have a choice. The analytic mode of cognition has been imposed by cognitive colonialism. Secular humanist powers have implemented all manner of social and educational programs over the course of the past 300 years to champion analytic thinking. Why? Because that's the type of thinking that maximizes economic growth. The more people are thinking analytically, the more they produce science and technology, which will increase GDP. Atheists want to tell the story that the debate between atheism and religion is about two sides making arguments against each other, and people decide which is more compelling. But there's another way to look at it. Atheists represent an extremist mode of thinking that results in maximizing GDP and military power. The reason that there are so many atheists today is not because the scientific worldview is...
That's completely... That's not
false.
That's not the entire picture at all. I mean, the society is far more complex. You do have a lot of funding in academia for useless degrees, useless projects, useless. When I say useless, from an economic point of view, indeed, you do have corporations and so on funding academic projects and scientists that would produce interesting research that would accelerate their growth, their economies. But then you also have national government funding for just educational purposes, just for abstract learning, right? And understanding things for projects, PhD projects that don't necessarily equate to any real economic output. So it's a mixed picture that Daniel is one-dimensionally reducing, watering down, and diluting, strawmanning, misrepresenting, caricaturing, which is something that I would entirely expect from Daniel Haqiqatjou, because that's how he argues, right? Reality. Give me some evidence. Where is the evidence for this? He just asserts it. Yet what he has to do is find a study or demonstrate that most of the breakthroughs, most of the scientific things, or vast majority, or all of them, is merely linked to some degree of commodification. There was some corporation, they funded it. He has to tease it out. He has to explain how he can then ultimately has to rely on science, demonstrate how he can show that indeed many of the breakthroughs, many of the ideas, and so on. Intellectual understandings, what educators do, what academics do, is linked to some sort of capitalist gain. It's not always the case. In fact, a vast majority of academic work is just useless, right? Yeah.
Right.
So it's a mixed picture. He's portraying the mixed picture. Indeed, there is also within that mixed picture, obviously, lots of studies that are supported by companies who have a self-interest to have that study be conducted and so on as well. It's a very mixed picture that he's just portraying in this bad light. So very bad Haqiqatjou there.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, I don't know if you go to academia, there are lots of companies funding, and they might have their own vested interest, but there might be some who already have enough, funding available to go the team way, right? In a sense,
Many
I'm saying
countries,
that they don't have a vested interest. They just genuinely want to invest in the researchers to find out something new about the world, pretty much.
Yeah,
right?
in many countries, like in the United Kingdom, just one moment. In many countries like the United Kingdom, there is reserve funds that are allocated precisely for just intellectual leaps and understandings, right? Intellectual growth, because you want to understand the world for itself without any real link to any technology or product that they need to produce. It may indirectly have an impact.
Exactly, that's what I was going to go at.
Yeah, there is. Let me just give an example.
Economics might be a byproduct of it, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Just let me just give you an example. Before we did this podcast, I had a friend who was a professional academic philosopher who was suggesting that we can have lots of philosophers on this channel, and it could become like an educational institute, and through her I could have secured funding for it. Why would I secure funding for this? Is because there are just directors of programs and the policymakers or whatever you want to call them, the people who evaluate these things and allocate funds to certain projects. They're just sitting around waiting. They love this sort of stuff. They love intellectual projects, even if it doesn't have any direct impact to anything. Like even philosophy, there is funding out there for philosophy that you can get if you make it more mainstream. So what we're doing right now, potentially through my friend, I could have secured some funding. She would have directly got the funding for it in order to make philosophy mainstream, then just discuss things from different backgrounds. That doesn't have a necessarily direct economic output, although it can do indirectly. If our channel grows big, for example, it will have an indirect impact on advertisements and promotions. And people know that, but that doesn't mean they're solely motivated for financial gain. They're not thinking, it might indirectly have that. And we all know that by being more knowledgeable, it has an impact on many things, not just financial gain, but just life. Just if you're a better critical thinker and you know things, it can improve your moral life as well as your economic life. But that doesn't mean these funders are just prioritizing the dollar sign.
Right, I agree. I totally agree. Even as you just said, this channel, our motto is to bring something that we know and probably just disseminate the knowledge that we have. Probably, I think that's the one thing, and maybe even learn. It's not only about disseminating knowledge, but also learn from the others. A lot of people come down over here. We have conversations. We think through those conversations, and it does affect our thinking in some ways. For sure. So that's the goal, at least. All right, shall we move on? Cal, you want to add something? You there?
Yep, here. No, I think let's go on and complete the video.
Inherently compelling. Rather, maximizing analytic thinking allows you to invent nukes and tanks. Most people historically disagreed with maximal analytic thinking, but they were wiped out. Social, technological, economic violence has changed the epistemology of people across the world. Prior to this, no one would have taken atheism seriously, but atheists fail to acknowledge this history. They just assume that analytic thinking should be maximized no matter what. This biases any debate on the existence of God. The theist is always at a disadvantage if he has to mold his arguments to satisfy a mind that's primed to reject anything non-empirical. Humans have strong natural intuitions about reality. We have the intuition that there's an external world, that our memories have truth content. There are intuitions that that don't give us any more power to do science or produce technology, but that doesn't make them unreal. Intuitions about the existence of God are among the strongest intuitions humans have, and this intuition is supported by inferential reasoning and communal traditions. If an atheist says he doesn't find these things compelling, we should ask, where do you get your epistemic standards from? Why shouldn't we believe that those standards are unique to modern Western culture and have only emerged very recently in history, primarily because they maximize GDP? Why should we take those standards?
The other thing is,
standards from? Why shouldn't we believe that?
For a moment, the thing is, the things that maximize GDP are also things that maximize truth. Sometimes, data. You need to have good truth-seeking, sharp reasoning skills to be a good accountant, to be a good lawyer, right? You need data science, biology. You need researchers. You need human psychology, marketing. Marketing is improved and made more efficient through sciences that focus on human psychology, consumer psychology, because that helps companies get to the truth. So even if the reason why these analytical skills are promulgated, and it's not, by the way, it's a combination of factors. Daniel is just highlighting the capital dollar sign, which is wrong, factually wrong, unless he provides some study showing, in fact, it's just merely just for that. We're not saying it's not a factor, but it's just merely just for that. But even if it was that, that's because critical thinking, data, science, learning about the world has a connection to improve, also financial gain, because you need to know the truth. So I don't see what the point he's making here. The fact that a company might have a financial gain from emphasizing these skill sets, it does not mean those skill sets on its own are not good traits, because they're truth orientated. Yes, they can be used by a corporation for their bottom line, because a truth is a very good way of maximizing your bottom line, but they can still be truth producing tools. So even if it's a bit like disparaging science because it can create nuclear bombs. Well, science might create nuclear bombs, because that's something that Richard Dawkins said in an interview with Mahdin, because science is probably the best way to do anything. If you want to make the best weaponry, you're going to do it scientifically, because people who have scientific acumen will probably make the best explosives, right? Because if your goal is to make the best weapons, it implies you are a truthful individual who truly wants to create the best weapons. You don't want to just fake it, because then you won't be able to create the best weapon. The best weapon has a truth-centered goal. What is the truth that you're seeking? I truly want to make the best weapon. And if you want to truly make the best weapon, you're going to use science. But that doesn't mean that truth-seeking tool is not a truth-seeking tool just because a corporation can misuse it. It's still a truth-seeking tool. Yeah.
Right. Agreed there. I just wanted to stop here because I just wanted to, I just wanted to show the expression over there when Daniel said that. Anyway, just go ahead.
Yeah, but I wanted to repeat my point, the point that I had raised earlier in the stream, which is this analytical thinking has helped you, Daniel, in forming or in verifying your own intuition, because you are using analytical data to verify your own intuition in this very debate. So
yes,
this is the value of analytical thinking.
exactly, because he ultimately had to rely on analytical thinking otherwise his point will fall apart.
Yes.
Right, exactly. All right, shall we move on? Go quicker on this?
Yes.
Those standards are unique to modern Western culture and have only emerged very recently in history, primarily because they maximize GDP. Why should we take those standards as arbiters of truth about God or anything else?
Okay. All right, I think we're done here. I think he just used atheist word probably confusing them with the Western powers. Right? He used that word atheists are doing. Bring. So I think he probably missed that. I think most of these societies, when they did, when all this, you know,
You were theistic. Yeah.
theistic, all of them were theistic, and this capitalist revamping was being done. It was done through all these Christian powers, pretty much, right? Majority of them were Christian
Daniel
powers.
then Daniel has a very black and white approach to almost everything. In even if you go to, I think it's the third part of the debate where I think the third topic of the debate is secular humanism versus Islam, which is better system or which it's better. And Daniel literally categorizes every
As
political
atheist.
system besides
That's
Islam
liberal.
as
Right.
liberalism.
Right.
He categorizes Russian, Soviet Union's political system. I mean, he literally every system, every system that has existed in human history is
That is
liberalism
not
according to
yeah, that is
Daniel.
not Islamic.
That is
Is
not
is a
Islam. Yes,
secular
that is not
liberal
Islam. Is
secular
liberalism
liberal
according
system.
to Daniel.
Right.
Literally, that
Right.
is his approach. So he's taken a similar approach over here, where everything besides every civilization besides Islam is
Well,
liberalism.
let me just clarify something in slightly in defense of Daniel here, because he means something entirely different. And this is something that I generally hold anyway, as philosophically. I think a lot of people talk cross purposes, right? When he says these ideologies are liberal, he doesn't mean the normal conventional academic or colloquial usage of the word liberal. He's coming up with his own definition of liberal, right? Now, he might make the argument that he should conform to normal standards of communication. Yeah, that might be true. He might be more of an effective speaker if he simply just use the conventions that ordinarily is being used. It just saves him the hassle from having to redefine things and clarify and so on. But when he says liberal, he's making a sound with his mouth to say secular ideologies that are thought of by man. That's what he means,
But
right?
I'll tell you what. Usually, I would give him that concession or anyone that concession.
Yeah.
But the topic of the debate, particularly of the third part of the debate, is very specific. It is secular humanism versus Islam.
Yeah.
And he literally brings up every system besides Islam and he categorizes it as secular
Oh, I see.
humanism.
I see. Then he's making a mistake. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Understand.
very specific topic. They're
Yeah.
covering secular humanism versus Islam.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe
Exactly. Yeah.
we'll get to review that as well some point in
Because
future.
then he is making a category error, right? Because then he's conflating all forms of human secular philosophies, secular political ideologies
Yes.
with secular humanism. Secular humanism is a very, very specific type of secular human political ideology. It's a subcategory within a category, and he's comparing the broad category with a subcategory. It's like
Right.
me saying because Christianity and Judaism is bad or has evil in it, Islam is bad. Well, no, that's a separate idea. Islam is separate from Christianity, and similarly,
All right.
secular humanism is separate from 20th century communism, right?
Right.
So that is bad. Yeah, yeah. That would be a misuse or abuse of it.
Right.
He
Okay. I'll
uses
take it.
he explains it by saying that what I'm saying is because this is Matt actually points that out that none of these are secular humanist societies or systems. And what Daniel says is, well, these are all based on liberal and human or secular
Yeah.
reasoning and values. So or motivated
So,
by them by those reasons. So
so we can
this is
therefore
how
we
he tries
can,
to explain it
yeah. So
away.
we can therefore we can incriminate Islam based on anything that any theist does.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So
That's
any
Yeah.
person who uses Islamic, uh, even Quran or Hadith, any Islamic rulings or values, and he, terrorizes or he
Yeah.
promotes
Yeah.
terrorism or becomes a terrorist himself,
Yeah.
considering or using that as motivation or Islamic sources as the motivation, then we are going to argue that yes, then Islam is to be blamed for that.
Yeah. And even
right.
even if even if it's not Islamic, if it's like Christian, We could say we can blame. We can hold Daniel. We can be against Daniel. Basically, in other words, just the way he says, well, this is a society created by secular reasoning. Although it's not secular humanism, it's a great society created by secular reasoning, and this is what it goes towards. We can say, oh, this is a society created by theistic reasoning. Here's a theistic society, and we can point out to maybe to North Korea or pre-Islamic
Right.
Arabia, or something like that. Or we might talk about KKK or subgroups, anything, and go, look, this is what theistic type of reasoning leads to. And what would Haqiqatjou say in that situation? So if he opens up the can of worms to incriminate atheists for all the crimes of any atheist, however perverted their ideology, they might be an atheist nihilist, they might be an atheist communist, they might be an atheist,
right?
Social nationalist, they might follow
Right,
Hitler,
Leninist, whatever you may have, right?
yeah,
Maoist.
whatever. And if you're going to hold us responsible, then we can hold him responsible for any theistic belief, any Islamic perversion, distortion, exaggeration, but beyond Islam as well. Anything,
Right.
even
the Christian, the Crusades and all those go under that
even
category,
before
right?
that, even primitive animism, and maybe even before when like hunter-gatherers were believing in random stuff and raping each other. We were like,
Right.
look at this is what supernaturalism leads to.
Right.
They were the purest form of human, and this is what they were doing.
Yeah.
They had not been corrupted by this evil colonialist mentality, or their colonialist curriculum, and
Right.
yet they were doing all this. And this was all based on their innate, uh, you know,
Intuitions
savagery.
about whatever,
Yeah.
right? The theistic intuitions, pretty
Yeah,
much.
their innate beliefs in the supernatural. That is what
Right.
was making them do all this,
Right.
because they're supposed to be innately theists, right? So I mean, that was probably their motivation. So you're right.
All right, guys. So I think we are done with this part. Do you want to? I think we are closing
Let's
in on
listen,
2 hours.
let's listen to Matt quickly, very quickly. Let's just listen
Yeah,
to
that's
Matt.
what I was thinking. Maybe, but then once we start, I think our plane is really
It's
hard
never
to
gonna
stop.
stop.
Basically.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
let's listen to in entirety of Matt, and then just comment and then close the stream. How long does it take Matt's speech? Is it like 10 minutes?
Yeah, around 10. I think it would be around 10, 12 minutes.
All right. What we should do is watch 5 minutes, comment, then watch another 5 minutes.
Okay,
All
then
right.
let's limit our comments, right? Let's
Yeah,
keep
we'll
them
limit
short.
our comments. We'll limit our
All
comments.
right. Okay. What point does
And
it
let's make
start?
it
Do you know?
run at 1.25 times the speed,
Yeah.
normal speed.
Yeah, it's running already at 1.25.
We can't see your screen though.
Not for Kylie. Kylie's brain works faster, I think.
I'm very used to
Hold-
listening to
All right,
videos at
give it a shot.
1.25
Gentlemen,
actually.
the floor is all yours.
Can you see it?
That's an interesting diatribe on the problems of
Yep.
analytic and reasoning. Where was the evidence for God? That was the entire first part. Is there evidence of God? And I didn't hear not only any objectively verifiable empirical evidence for God, I didn't even hear any intuitive evidence for God. Just a lot about the value of intuition and how, evidently, as an atheist, I'm all about military power, which I generally despise, despite having done 8 years in the military, and that's not consistent with my secular humanism, and nothing that I could view as evidence of God.
No, the whole point was to question your standards.
That wasn't the subject of the debate.
Hey, I didn't interrupt you when you
Correct.
called what I said a diatribe. Let's try to be civil here.
I am
I'm
trying
trying
to be civil. I'm
Then don't
agreeing with
interrupt
you.
me. Then
Well,
please
I don't
don't
know that
interrupt.
interruption is
Don't interrupt
necessarily
me.
uncivil. Okay.
So as I was saying, the whole
Or is this the discussion part, right?
This is the
what we-
discussion part, because Matt's
Yeah.
statement was before Daniel's
Yeah, I
statement.
think we probably need to go back to Matt's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because this is the discussion part, right?
Yes.
What is
But you
common
notice,
between Instagram, net
Formal fallacies, a lot of them have names. There are informal fallacies too that get to whether or not the premises are structured.
Sorry,
think you should
Khayalie, you were
start
saying
from the
something.
beginning. I was saying that you notice that Daniel agreed with Matt's statement that he didn't even provide argument from intuition, although he did. He should have said that I am presenting an argument from intuition. But you see, the entire point that Daniel made through his statement was that we don't have to agree to the atheistic standards of evidence,
Yeah, yeah.
and therefore,
I
uh,
really don't think Matt dealt with this properly. He
yes,
missed Kikic's points. He's
yes, it is
he kind of misrepresented him by saying, "Well, the whole point was he doesn't need evidence, and the whole point was the existence of the intuition
right.
is enough." And that's why
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
yeah,
presented as an argument, basically,
yes,
right?
Right.
Right.
But what I was saying is, if you notice, Daniel doesn't, push him back on that. He just says, well, I was just making my point that I don't agree with your standards. He should have
yeah.
mentioned that, no, I did give an argument. But I think later in the cross questioning, he does come back to this and no, he says that I did mention some arguments. So yeah,
Right. He realized his mistake initially that he made
exactly. Yeah.
initially,
He
right?
doesn't, exactly.
All right. Okay. Let's move on. I'm not quite sure what point does it start.
I promise I'm not going to go through everything that we went through in the previous debate, but there's a reason why we look for objective verifiable facts, and that's because subjective unverifiable suspicions just aren't a reliable path to truth. If there's a better, not having a Mitch McConnell moment, I'm just trying not to be rude. And James has already managed to get Daniel and I to agree on microphones. I don't expect us to agree on a lot after that, but that's where we're at. The first of the three topics is in the previous debate. I promise I'm not going to go through everything that we went through in the previous debate, but there's a reason why we look for objective verifiable facts, and that's because subjective unverifiable suspicions just aren't a reliable path to truth. If there's a better way to get to a reliable understanding of reality, somebody would need to demonstrate it. And so this is why I'm seeking objective verifiable paths. It is the most scientific, reliable path to truth, or the most consistently reliable, demonstrable path to an accurate model of reality is tied up in empirical, objective, verifiable facts. That doesn't mean it applies to absolutely everything. If I say life is generally preferable to death, that doesn't mean that that is an objectively verifiable empirical fact. It may just be my foundation that I use for things. If your God doesn't interact with reality in a detectable way, then you cannot claim to have detected it. You must show a mechanism by which you have detected what appears to be the undetectable. There's a reason that courtrooms, at least in most of the modern world, no longer accept spectral evidence of magic and things like that. Because when we're looking at a claim and we want evidence for that claim, we must demonstrate a connection between our proposed explanation of the facts and the facts that support that. Science doesn't make proclamations of certainty, not absolute certainty. I don't even think that it makes approximations to certainty. Science creates models that are the best representation of a construct that describe the available facts. It's important that people understand a couple of basic things about logical arguments and logical fallacies. The easiest way to look at it is to look at a simple syllogism. It's constructed of two premises and you reach a conclusion. You have a major and minor premise and a connecting term, and that's how you say something like obvious, like Socrates is a man, all men are mortal, therefore Socrates is mortal, that sort of thing. Fallacies come in a couple different forms. One of them are structural fallacies that get to the validity of the argument, the structure itself. It's content agnostic. Those are formal fallacies. A lot of them have names. There are informal fallacies too that get to whether or not the premises are structured in such a way that they can reliably be used in a properly constructed. There's a difference between validity and soundness. Go look up validity versus soundness on Wikipedia. It's a decent start. Just every time you go to Wikipedia, make sure you go to the bottom and look to where it links you, because you might find yourself on like the Princeton philosophy page and in over your head if you haven't looked into any of this, and yet that's one of the best places to go to get information. So you might have some fallacies with names like post hoc ergo propter hoc, which just means after this, therefore because of this. You can't say, hey, I had my breakfast and then I had diarrhea, therefore my breakfast caused diarrhea. It could have been something else. It's not just true that this one thing follows another, that was the cause. Similarly, you might have something like an argumentum ad populum, which just means you're appealing to the popularity of the idea or what the masses think. And the truth is not impacted in any way by what people think or how strongly they are convinced of it or how long they've done it or how many of them there are. But a fallacy does not mean that the conclusion you've reached is false. That would be the fallacy to assert that something is false because it's fallacious. All it means is that you cannot reliably, you should not be convinced it is true because it does not follow from the facts or from the premises. And there are a number of different arguments for the existence of God, some of which are ones where they attempt to support it by evidence. Others, it's just, hey, it's a philosophical argument and we're going to look at a couple of premises. What you've heard many times from people are things like, oh, if there's a painting, we know there's a painter, or arguments from design and teleological arguments and anthropic principles. And the thing is, it almost doesn't matter in a logical argument if the premises are actually true as much as whether or not you accept that they're true. Because if you accept that the premises are true and the logic is valid and the argument's valid in structure, and you reject the conclusion, you are irrational. You are unreasonable. You are in conflict with the basics of logical reasoning. So it'd be nice if we had true premises, because a valid argument is one where true premises necessarily lead to a true conclusion. But at a minimum, if you accept the premises and reject the conclusion, you're in a position of being irrational or unreasonable. The same thing's true if you're using an invalid form. There's a number of different categories of arguments, but what we're talking about in general is I have a claim about something in reality, and it either matches up with the facts of reality or it doesn't. And it may match up and I won't have any way to demonstrate it. But when we're evaluating the evidence for a claim, you have to evaluate the facts that seem to be consistent with your proposition. And you also have to account for the facts that seem to be in conflict with your proposition. Does the evidence support some alternative hypothesis? For example, if there is a God and he created grass, some people might look at the grass and say, every blade of grass is proof of the creator. No, it's not. Because if there's not a God, or that's not the right God, if pixies created grass, or if evolution is the explanation for why we have grass, then the grass is evidence for each of those equally, which means it's evidence for none of them until you can demonstrate why it is connected to one and not the others. If you're accused of a crime and you wind up in a courtroom, quite often they'll ask about, or they'll try to demonstrate that you have motive, means, and opportunity. And so if we were to evaluate God, and we'll probably get into definitions about God a little bit later, but generally speaking, God is being accused of existing, and I'm finding God not guilty. Actually, I don't think the district attorney should bring the case anyway, because we haven't established that the case is worth trying. Because in order to have a hypothesis, it needs to be testable, which means it also needs to be falsifiable. There needs to be some way to demonstrate that it is wrong, at least hypothetically. You would need to show that God should be considered as a candidate explanation for whatever it is that you're trying to use God as a candidate explanation for. And why are you picking God as a candidate explanation over pixies or over evolution? Once you've demonstrated that God's a candidate explanation, you need to show that it is consistent with all of the available facts and not inconsistent with the facts that would seem to contravene it. You have to show that the preponderance of evidence is consistent with and makes your hypothesis not just more likely than some other, but more likely than not, more probable than not. And then you have an evidence-based conclusion. There are a number of things that people believe. Ghost stories, old wives' tales, the farmer's almanac. And all sorts of people believe that they have strong evidence for it because they go through a process of prioritizing evidence. If you think that the Bible or the Quran is the ultimate foundation of truth and that what's in there is going to lead you to truth, or that it's more likely to be true than not, that will bias your ability to assess the information as to whether or not it's consistent with that. If I'm on trial for murder and they can't produce a body, they might still be able to convict me. If they can't produce a weapon, they might still be able to convict me. They could show that I have means, motive, and opportunity, and I might still be innocent, and they might not be able to convict me, because means, motive, and opportunity are only part of the evidence for this. When it comes to God, there's no demonstration that I'm aware of, maybe we'll hear one, that God is a candidate explanation for anything. There is an assertion that God has the means to do whatever he wants by claiming that he's omnipotent or all-powerful, or at least sufficiently powerful. But where's the demonstration that God exists and is all-powerful? So the means is an assertion that's unjustified as far as I can tell. The motive seems to largely be ignored. I don't know why any God would create anything, certainly not anything inferior. Why would it create flawed things? And by making God spaceless and timeless, they're going to give him the opportunity. But these are assertions that aren't supported by evidence. You can make philosophical arguments. You can keep things in the realm of abstractions. But when we're looking for objectively verifiable facts of reality that are not just consistent with a God, but consistent with a particular God and no others, no other pixies, no other nothing, no evolutionary thing, I'm not aware of any evidence that truly counts for God. I'm aware of many things that people point to and say, this is evidence that is consistent with a God. But correlation with an idea does not demonstrate that there is, in fact, causation. It doesn't demonstrate that, oh, there's my time. See, I was watching my 10 minutes and I didn't hear James say a thing. In any case, I'll wrap up here with, I'm unaware of any objectively verifiable evidence for any God whatsoever. I'm interested to hear both a definition of a God and the objectively verifiable evidence for it.
Thank you very much for that opening, Matt.
Right.
All right. Yes, go ahead, Mahdin.
Yeah, I thought it was it's acceptably good.
Yeah, not much to complain in this. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the language that he might be using. I think atheists now must evolve beyond that sort of language, right? Especially with people who are reading into philosophy. I think because people like Haqiqatjou will be talking about certain things, and Matt Dillahunty is probably means the same thing that I mean, but just using words that makes him sound like he's saying that everything has to be produced into a laboratory, right?
Right.
Like must manifest in a laboratory or something like that. All right, when he says objectively verifiable, but he actually might
Right,
mean,
right.
right?
More sounds more like empiricist kind of an
Yes, I think this is
demanding
the
an
impression.
empiricist.
Yes, this is the impression that I think people might get from it. Whereas I think, I mean, it is my assumption maybe that this is not what he actually meant. He didn't mean that that only empirical proof must be provided for God. I
Yeah.
think he
When he
meant
says,
some
yeah, when he says,
objectively verifiable, and
yes,
Right,
objective verification can be achieved through logical reasoning as well. So, no.
yes,
right.
yeah,
I agree.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, it could very well be something like um, uh, all squares are 90 degrees, have 490-degree angles, and if there is a square, then it must have 490-degree angles. That's a
Right,
truth
right,
in some sense, like a deductive argument, isn't it? And
right.
he might agree with that. That he might say all of those premises are true. Yeah, they're true. Because look at the language. I didn't say there is a square. I said
Right,
first premise is squares contain 490-degree angles. If there is a square, then it must contain 490-degree angles.
right, right.
Right? So I'm given a deductive argument. There's nothing to empirically confirm in any of those things. In some
Right.
sense. He doesn't need to go out there and confirm anything. He can, from his armchair, agree, and he may say that is objectively verifiable, right? So that's what he might mean, but I wouldn't use that language as a result, because when he says objectively verifiable, it seems like he wants to asking Daniel to pull out God from his back pocket, or an effect of God from his back pocket. I might be wrong though, because according to many other criticisms of Dillahunty, according to when Sean said, even if Dillahunty thought every single premise of the contingency argument was true, yeah, he would think that there's no independent verification for God, and therefore it can't be. It's just an abstract language game, which would put him in the school of thinking that anything empirically not tangibly materializing, yeah.
That would put him as an irrational based on his own definition, basically. Didn't he say
Yeah,
the same
he'd
thing?
be
If
a very strong
you have
empiricist.
premise 1, premise 2 verified, and then the conclusion follows, then you have to believe it. And if you don't do that, then your belief is irrational. Did he say that or not? Or am I
Yes,
just
I think
making
he
it
did
up?
say that.
Yeah.
He did say that, because I think his point was that if you believe the premise and the conclusion follows, then, and if you still don't believe that
Yeah,
argument, then you're being irrational.
yeah.
And
Now,
the
now
point that
doesn't
he
it?
was trying to make was
Yeah,
it's usually the premise that we challenge and we disagree upon. It's usually
Right,
the
right,
challenge premise that we usually disagree upon. Yeah.
right.
yeah. But according to naysayers and critics of Matt, apparently he has said that even if all the premises are true of the contingency argument, because the premises don't contain any empirical verification.
Maybe I can come in defense of Matt. Maybe he says, even if
Yeah.
he exists and I accept that he does, I may not, follow him, or I may not,
Maybe that's what
I
he
may
meant.
defy him. Basically, is what I don't know. I haven't heard to those. I'm
Well,
just trying to defend him in that sense
well, the
broadly.
contingency arguments only establishes a god at best, maybe a good god, or a god at best. I don't
Yeah,
think it establishes. So
right,
yeah.
right.
Why it doesn't establish scripture? It does not establish God being a moral being worthy of worship, any of those things. So you need to make more of an effort after establishing the contingency argument. So maybe that's what he meant. Yeah.
I think the contingency argument disproves a good God, actually,
Yeah.
because
I
being
don't
good
want to,
is yeah. We don't want to go down that hill,
yes, it's not relevant.
a rabbit hole, but yeah.
Or
Yeah.
But I mean,
anybody who
we can
wants to
discuss
go
that.
down this lane probably needs to go and look up at our prior streams and videos, maybe, and you'll find there are some of the streams where we have talked about all these subjects. Even one of the videos that I wanted to recommend anybody who's listening was when Mahdin pointed at category error, and I'm pretty sure anybody who's listening to this stream or is going to listen to this stream later on at some point is probably well versed with these philosophical ideas. But if he or she is not, then go and look up at our stream about 10 logical fallacies that both atheist apologists and theist apologists commit, and you'll see a ton of logical fallacies being discussed over there. But anyways, just wanted to throw in our videos over there for anybody who's interested in listening to those. You'll see that we discuss those ideas in pretty easy language. So at least so I think that it's going to be easier for anybody to understand those, and with lots of examples actually we provide over there. So yeah, go ahead, Mahdin. Sorry, I just derailed the topic.
No, yeah. I think Matt's everything else is roughly correct about it's. I'm just wondering why he didn't make a case for atheism. And like Aaron Fraser did. So this is the issue. I think Matt Dillahunty, this is going to hurt Matt Dillahunty fans. I'm going to describe him in a controversial way. He's entry-level atheism, right? He's
I would agree, but then yes, I agree. And as soon as you said, Aaron's name came to my mind, because he's one of the his opening statement was one of the strongest that I have seen in my probably whole atheistic life, probably, if I can say so.
Yeah. So if people want to see a better proposal for, it's not that Matt is wrong or what Matt did was bad, but he seems to be defending a passive case for agnostic suspension almost, right? That look, or maybe a passive case in general for atheism, right? Where he is not making a positive argument for the non-existence of God. Now, some people may think you don't need to do that. Well, true, you don't need to do that, but you can do that. The strongest arguments for positive atheism, they exist. And anybody who's watching this and who's a Matt Dillahunty fan, you can continue to be a Matt Dillahunty fan, but you can be a better, stronger atheist by having actually positive arguments for the non-existence of God. That also can be done. There's a lot of philosophical literature showing that, how you can argue the reasons for why a God may not exist. And people like Aaron Fraser makes the case for, let's say, for naturalism, and it's a positive case showing that the world, the best interpretation of the cosmos is that there is no God rather than there is a God, right? And that's what Aaron Fraser did. And what Dillahunty is doing is saying simply, these are some of the methods what you need to satisfy to convince me. Now, convince me, Haqiqatjou. He's not making a positive case for atheism. And I'm just so if I could give him a critique to Matt, is that you can do both of them. You can give a passive case and a positive case all at the same time and say, even if my positive case for atheism fails, Haqiqatjou has to positively demonstrate the existence of God by satisfying these standards. But I also have a positive case for atheism, and here are the arguments, and he could deploy them. I don't know why he doesn't do that. Maybe he doesn't know them. Maybe he doesn't think he can make a positive case. Maybe he's more of an agnostic atheist. Maybe he's not a naturalist. I think previously I remember him thinking that the problem of evil is not a satisfactory argument, right? Or something like that. He thought problem of evil arguments. This was a long time ago. Maybe he's changed his mind, but he didn't think problem of evil arguments are compelling. So there we go. So we got a comment here, and that's exactly what I wanted to do, is elicit the motivation, elicit the desires of our audience. So let's see what it says. We don't make a positive case for the non-existence of God because proving that claim true would not have any meaningful effect on our daily lives. We would still live and conduct our lives as before. Right. Well, the thing is, Major Reynolds, I don't think the fact that it has any effect on your lives has any effect on the debate. If you have a debate on the existence of God, you can make a positive case. Let me just give you an example. If somebody's making a debate about whether astrology is true or astrology is false, right? Whether or not it has any repercussions on your life, it's a debate topic of whether astrology is true or astrology is false. You won't just say to the astrologer, prove me astrology is true, or until then, I'm just going to suspend from not making a decision. You can't do that. You can do that, I'm saying. That's one way to do it. But you can also do is go, look, not only astrology, you don't have a case for astrology. In fact, all of the evidence show that astrology is messed up. It's just gobbledygook. Look, and shown a plethora of evidence showing that astrologers are frauds. That you can through studies show that there is no effect of stars on your mood or your life events. Through studies show that it's human psychology, and actually not just show that there is no evidence for astrology, but positively show there is evidence against astrology. Now, does that have an effect on your daily life? No, but that's the point of the debate. The point is, you can do that, and you end up with a stronger argument that way, because you not only destroy your opponent, but you put the nail in the coffin. And that's
Right. I just wanted to support, Mahdin, your point that when you do that, when you make a positive, assertive case, you're not giving an upper hand to the other side, to your opponents, basically. Otherwise, they think, and this is a psychological effect, that they think that they have an upper hand because the other side, that is the atheistic side, is only just conceding that they don't have any positive case to be made, basically. And this becomes like a more important issue, just from an optics point of view, in a sense.
That too, yeah. And I would also contest Major Reynolds' point that it doesn't have an effect, meaningful effect. Who says so? It can do. The idea that if you demolish the case for religion more and more and more, and it weakens religion, then it does have an effect. It might have an effect. I mean, I can't be 100% sure. That's an empirical question. How much do these debates have an effect, right? But in theory, in principle, it could indeed have an effect. For example, if you just make almost like an agnostic atheist case, a negative case for atheism, then it like Philo just said, the audience is still open to the question. It doesn't mean God is false. It doesn't mean God does not exist, but it doesn't mean there's any evidence for God. But they may think, like you just said, Philo, that well, there's no evidence against it, and some people in the audience would still hold on to it. But when you make a positive case, because some theists actually want to hear a positive case, until they hear a positive case, they won't change. And if there are atheists like that changing their minds based on it, it does have an effect on our daily lives. In fact, because if the wider community of theists are then being persuaded out of their theism or being weakened, that has an effect on aggregate in terms of society, laws being passed, persuasion, scientific progress, all of these things, right? The shifting standards of culture, for example, why are more people secular in America? It has an effect. The more people who are, for example, for abortion than they used to be, for feminism, decreasing religion, these are all have an effect on society, and I'm sure these debates have some, not completely or total impact, but some impact. So I can't see the idea that it doesn't have any effect on our daily lives. It does.
I think, I totally agree with your point, Mahdin. And this effect is probably not as clear cut to you, Major Reynolds, but it is definitely affecting the whole scenario. If you look at the demographics, pretty much over in Islamic countries as well, Iran, I'm not quite sure whether these debates are making that impact or it's a cumulative, effect of a lot many different factors. But Iran, certain studies from 2020 and 2021 show that 60% of the Iranian population is outside the fold of religion. They consider themselves as non-religious. The same is happening in Pakistan as well, and probably Khayalie is gonna attest to that fact. I can tell you from within, in India, that's happening. In Bangladesh, that's happening. So somewhere this effect was not seen, or probably it was not noticed earlier before this internet era and these debates were going on. So there's certain kind of correlation with these debates as well. As soon as these YouTube debates and all those debates started to appear, the graph is seemingly going up and up and up. So maybe it's just an optical kind of correlation, but seems plausible to me, at least, that there's some effect of these debates.
Yeah. I don't think the aim of a debate should only it should contain it, but it shouldn't be the only aim of a debate if it has any positive impact on our daily lives. If you're having a debate over whether toast tastes better brown, or underburnt, or whatever, that might not have the greatest impact on our daily life, but it's a debate. And if there's a debate about toast, then you just have a responsibility, a duty to prove certain claims, right? And if you can demolish your opponent with stronger arguments, then that's it. Even so, it doesn't matter whatever the debate topic is, whether or not it has any connection with our daily lives. I think you should deploy the best arguments that is in your arsenal, and the atheist does have very good arguments. And if he just pours into the philosophy, the writings of Bertrand Russell, David Hume, these are famous philosophers that have just gone under the just are not being in focus anymore. They have much better arguments, I think, modern day philosophers, modern day public atheist intellectuals, right? They've such strong arguments, and you can actually make from that, and modern day philosophers as well, who even somewhat popular academics, or I don't think he is an academic, even someone like Richard Carrier, who has a philosophy heavy sort of prose to him. Even he, who I would still say is not a professional philosopher, makes strong arguments. But if anybody wants to look into real philosophy, somebody called Graham Oppy, Paul Draper, Michael Martin, these are people that you might want to look into. Even somebody called Alex Malpass.
Yeah, Peter Millikan is pretty good at. You remember that debate with William Lane Craig he had? It was a pretty good debate.
Yeah, and you're right that you don't need to make a positive case for God. You don't have to. But it's like going into a debate about whether evolution is true or evolution is false. And the evolutionist goes there and the evolution goes there and just asks the person who's trying to disprove evolution, but it doesn't make a positive case for evolution, right? Now, it's true that if you don't disprove evolution, it doesn't mean evolution is false, right? It's true that it doesn't mean evolution is false. But in a debate where if evolution is true or evolution is false, why wouldn't the pro-evolutionist, especially if he's a biological background, why wouldn't he make the case for evolution? Because by doing this, he simultaneously shows that it's not disproven, and he simultaneously, in fact, it's proven. He kills two birds with one stone, right? So why wouldn't you do that if you have that? And that's my point.
Right. Agreed. Completely agree there, Mahdin. Mahdin, shall we think about closing the stream? Anybody who's listening, there are a few people listening. If you want to join, there is a link out there. If you want to talk for a few minutes, maybe just give us your thoughts on the stream or the debate or any other point you want to make as an atheist, as a theist. We have had very cordial conversations even with theists. So you're always welcome. Doesn't matter, what you believe in, pretty much. But otherwise, then probably we should think about closing the stream, Mahdin, right, Khayalie?
Yeah. I think we should close the stream.
All right. And just mention one more name.
Yes,
Alan
sorry,
Watts.
wasn't able to unmute my mic, but yeah, I think we can close it now. We are around 2.5 hour mark, so I think it's a good time to close.
All right, then we should close the stream. This was a good discussion, Mahdin, Khayalie. Yes, pretty good discussion. We covered we finished Daniel's opening statement, and then we covered Matt's opening statement as well. So we are done with that. Next stream probably will go further into the debate, maybe part 2, part 3, as Khayalie has mentioned. So before we leave, anybody who's going to listen to the stream, I think we made this comment at the beginning as well. Please subscribe, share as much as you can. If you like the content, if you share it more, we'll be motivated to bring more and more reviews of these kind of debates, and even different stuff, talking about different things, pretty much, right? And subscribe, make a comment once the stream is over. That increases the visibility, and then somehow the YouTube algorithm keeps it up. And press the notification bell if you want, right? Not you should, basically.
And I'd like to pose a question to the audience, which is what Mahdin raised at the end. That what do you guys think? We would like you guys to put that and comment your thoughts about the idea that should atheists present a positive case for their positive case for their position, or should they remain passive? So what do you think? So we'd like to
Right.
see your
That's
comments on
that's a
that.
good question to for everybody to think through, and even rather comment on. Basically, comment your position on what you think about it. All right, both of you. Any last words? Khayalie, you said. Mahdin.
No, that's it. Just like and subscribe, spread the word that we have this stream, show your friends. I know we've got a bit of a English-speaking audience, we've got a Hindi-speaking audience, we've got audience around the world. Wherever you guys are, spread it to your friends and so on. We want to grow. Look, we've only got 6 people watching. We're very new, but we've been here. Although we're new, we're relatively new, but we still feel like we've been here for a while and we don't have the audience that we need and maybe even deserve. I don't know. Maybe we're doing something right or maybe we're doing something wrong. Let us know. Give us some constructive advice. Other than that, the comments will be open on YouTube. So if you want to leave any further comments, anything that you want us to respond to, we will happily respond. I know I happily will respond under the comment section. So you just leave a comment under the YouTube video and I will respond.
Or before we leave, Mahdin, just reading these 2 comments by just thank you, just and everybody, Sadhna, Chaturtha, Major Reynolds, and everybody who commented, who got hooked to the stream. Thank you very much. I hope you join the next stream as well. Just these 2 comments. Thank you, guys. I'll check more of your content, and atheists should back up their claims just as anyone else. I would recommend that you make a comment about it once the stream is over. That'll be much more helpful, and it'll stay there for everybody to look at.
The YouTube video. Let's have a fruitful discussion about this. Major Reynolds has a there we go.
Oh yeah, I'll read. Major Reynolds, thanks for your comment. That part is about honesty with others and ourselves. We tend not to like to make arguments for positions we don't actually sincerely hold.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I mean, if you're an agnostic atheist and you don't actually think God does not exist, you might be a negative atheist, or where you believe that there's no good evidence for God, but that does not mean you think God does not exist, right? So you're open to the possibility that there is God. You're not saying God doesn't exist, but you're just saying that there is no good evidence for God's existence. And then if you're sincerely that person, then of course you're right, Major. I wouldn't expect you to make a positive case for the non-existence of God. My only point is that there's actually you may not have been, you may think that, but if you peer into many of the arguments that many atheists make, they actually make a positive case, and they're very powerful and persuasive and compelling, logical, evidence-based. You may or may not agree with it at the end, but that does exist. But if you are the type of person who is attracted to those, I would say make those arguments. You should make those arguments because they are strong. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Mahdin said already, but what I'll say is, and your position is perfectly fine as well, very honest position to hold if you don't think that you have really, positive, strong arguments to support atheistic case. But what else, as Mahdin already said, what I'll suggest is go to our, live stream section and look up at debate between, atheistic. You'll see Muhammad Hijab and other guys over there, and you look at the opening statement by Aaron Fasser, and you see his opening statement. It's a pretty good statement, and you see the kind of case he has presented over there. And you'll see how such cases can be still presented. Whether you agree with that or not is a different story, but you'll see at least you'll see what he's presenting.
It exists. A positive case can be made,
Right.
Whether it's true or not. It might be the case that Major Reynolds, you might read it and think, this is not good. You sincerely can't expect. Okay, that's fine, but it does exist. At least have a look at it.
All right. Last statement from Major, then we're going to close the stream. I definitely agree. If you do believe the positive positions against God, you should make arguments supporting it. All right. Yes, I think, yeah. Look up to all those things, and then we'll see you in our next stream. All right. Mahdin, Khayalie, thank you very much, guys. This was a great stream. We enjoyed it. I hope our audience enjoyed it as well. See you for now. See you in the back.
See you. Bye-bye.